Welcome to the Blatantly Obsessive Media Makers podcast, where we like stuff and it's your problem. I'm Jess. I go by SnakeJess Draws online. This is my co-host.
That's me. I'm the co-host, Julian, my Julian. You've probably seen me around.
So a second ago we were talking about World of Warcraft, and I don't usually talk games, but I saw this and it was too much for me to not comment on. They're putting out a $90 microtransaction mount in their store.
What?
Yes. This mount gives you a mobile auction house, which is not the first mount to do that. They had a limited time mount you could get before that cost like 5 million gold and gave you that functionality. And then they were like, we're not doing this mount again. So if you couldn't get it before that expansion ended, you couldn't get it. But now they put this in the store, and it not only has a mobile auction house, it has a bank. Or not a bank, a mailbox. Which when you buy things from the auction house, they go to your mailbox. So now you can functionally do economy stuff anywhere for $90. Most people will park it right outside the auction house next to the mailbox. But they will have paid $90 to do so. It's insane. That is an entire game. And then some.
Yeah, that's weird. Also, doesn't World of Warcraft have a history of weird, terrible manipulation when it comes to the in-game economy? Why are you doing that thing that real world economies do where they're giving resources to people with money and no one else?
Yeah, it's really bizarre how the game has shifted to this kind of terrible pay-to-win model. Because now, over the time, they have added in lots of methods to use money, real-world money, to get stuff in-game. And there's always been a gold black market you could go to. So they kind of eventually gave up in cracking down on that and just figured, what the hell, we're going to monetize it. So you can buy a token for real money and then sell that token to someone in game, and then they can exchange that token for battle.net currency or game time. And the exchange rate is you buy the token for $20 and they get $15 worth of money, and then you get about 200,000 gold. With last time I was on, that's about how much it is, which isn't really that much. So to get some of the really expensive items, you're gonna buy 5 or 6 tokens or something. So you can really see how people with deep wallets are they can just use this to get whatever money they want. And people absolutely do this, even though it's insane to anyone who plays the game and is like, oh, this game isn't that hard, why would you spend money on it? People absolutely do it. So it's very bizarre. I don't know. It just has Activision, all over it. They're doing it because they're so profit driven now. And
Yeah.
the timing on it was just really interesting because I've also been listening to that Jason Schreier book about Blizzard this last week. He released a book called Play Nice, and it's really interesting to hear a lot of behind the scenes baseball about Blizzard, how they came up, how they stayed there and how it kind of fell. I'm still in the portion of the book that he labels the fall, which is the second third. And what just covered, they just covered the Diablo Immortal debacle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they knew going into that it was going to be bad. There were forces within the company that were people might not like this if we do it.
And they still let the "don't you guys have phones" guy get on the stage.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it turns out that guy, poor him, he's just a guy, a dev. I think he got a little blindsided by that reaction. But internally, they had tried to suggest, let's announce Diablo 4 at the same time so people don't get mad.
Yeah.
But the Diablo 4 team was like, no, we're way too far away from having a product. You can't announce it.
True.
So they kept having this squabble inside, and then it didn't work out. So then they decided, okay, well, if we can't announce the game, let's wink to the audience that we've got more than one thing in the oven. But then that just got interpreted as, oh, they're totally gonna announce Diablo 4 at BlizzCon. So they really set themselves up for that disappointment.
Oh, so they like did the wink nudge nudge before the announcement of Immortal. So what happened was no one was expecting Immortal. They were expecting Diablo 4. So they were double angry.
Yep.
Wow.
And then they just had no way to calm them down, and they had no way to deal with it. And it's a lot of stuff like that just happened as they grew. I learned a lot about Bobby Kotick I didn't know before, like that he I think he dropped out of school. I don't think it was high school, or I can't remember if it was high school or college, but he's just always been like a money guy since he was a kid. Supposedly, he sold his mom's ashtray when he was a kid. He was always like
Oh, jeez.
on the grind to make money.
Speaking of, did the book mention anything about how Steve Bannon became like the leader of the gold black market pretty much for a while?
I don't think so, but
Damn.
that would be that's a really interesting story. That needs to be talked about. But no, it stays a lot to the Blizzard kind of internal politics. Apparently the guy who wrote The Martian worked at Blizzard for a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, he got
Why that guy?
Yeah, he was just it was just when he was younger and he was interested in it. He was doing the computer stuff. He ended up getting fired though because he didn't vibe with the culture they had of crunching and like basically living at the office. Very early on, Blizzard, when they were like a small company, they basically like had a culture of like when you worked there, it kind of became your life. Like
Yeah.
all your friends were the people there. You like pretty much lived in the office, but not in the way you were expected to, like by your employer, but in the way that like everyone was always doing it. So you kind of did.
Yeah, that
And
sort
it
of thing was industry wide at the time. Like, it didn't really become a thing that people questioned until the famous EA spouse letter, where like an open letter was written by someone married to an electronic arts developer who basically said, this company is killing my spouse and I'm not going to take it anymore. And then everyone said, we agree.
yeah, I remember stories of crunch time were why I didn't investigate going into making games when I was doing my comp sci degree. Because like when I was in high school, I took like a class at a community college that was about game design, and to a lesser extent, video game stuff. And the teacher showed us a documentary about like crunch, and I was like, oh god, that sounds terrible. I don't want to do that. Who wants? No one wants to do that. No job's worth that. So
Yeah.
I did not do it. Um, because it seems like they had just wild dedication, and it didn't like people. It didn't even seem to really stress on it too much. But then they just get bought out, or they sell themselves. Actually, it's a long road, and at first they kind of walk this line of being player first, but still making money. But they just can't. They just can't keep up with the growth. You know, they can only release so many products so quickly,
Yeah.
and then the more corporate they get, the more they bleed talent. And then, by the point of the book I'm at, all the original Blizzard people are like gone. It's just it's just like Activision now, basically. Which is yeah, I remember being like a World of Warcraft player while this is happening, and you kind of knew that it was happening from the outside. You didn't know how much they were fighting about it internally. I guess the CEO of Blizzard like Mike Morheim and a couple other people whose names I can't really remember, they were even not even telling their subordinates the degree to which they were having to push back and push back and push back on stuff.
Makes sense. It would have been a different culture at the time, but now all of that's going to be on social media, like probably in real time if it were happening now.
Yeah, totally. Even the story about Hearthstone, this is so funny. Like, Hearthstone, they worked on Hearthstone for 4 years before it was officially greenlit. And they they showed it to the executives at one point, and then after that, Mike Morheim came in and was like, "Hey, congratulations, your game's greenlit." I was like, "What?" It's like, we've been working on this 4 years and we weren't already set to make it. And it turned out the whole time the other executive people had no faith in it, didn't think it could be viable, thought it was basically garbage. And then they played it and they're like, okay, this is pretty good. And then it very quickly became a huge moneymaker and it got put on their treadmill of content. Like, they described the process of going from how much fun it was to make it to within a year they were being told how much you need to push for more expansions a year, more card packs a year, more things a year. And they're trying to explain to them that you can't do that because people will stop buying them if you release too many because it won't be worth it. And
Yeah.
they just don't they just don't listen. But what I didn't know is that one of the main guys who was responsible for that when he left Hearthstone, I think it was the Verter guy. He's the guy that went on to make Marvel Snap.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love Marvel Snap.
I've heard a lot of good things about it, and it makes sense that he would be the one to design it. I guess the way that worked is they had dungeon runs. They were supposed to monetize dungeon runs, but they didn't really want to. And there was him and another guy, and this other guy was like, "Hey, do you want to kind of leave here and make another company?" Because I know they knew someone who was in charge of Marvel contracts, and if they made their own company, they would get them a license to do a Marvel game. So they planned this out. And if anyone walked in on them and asked them what they were doing, they would say that they were workshopping monetizing dungeon runs. So that they would have a go-to excuse, and no one would ever ask another question because the execs really wanted them to do that.
Right.
And that's so funny to me. It is also kind of wild how already successful people can just go from you just create their own job. Oh, this Blizzard thing's not working out. Let's just leave here and go start another company and immediately get a fucking Marvel contract.
Which they're very stingy with nowadays.
Yeah. For real. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. It's an interesting book. I'm interested to see where it goes in the last third. Because I'm guessing the last third is when we're going to start hearing about the lawsuits and stuff. But that was pretty interesting. Short audiobook though, only about 8 hours. So.
Oh yeah, that's perfect for me. I could probably listen to that throughout my whole workday.
Yep. What about you this week?
Well, now I'm hoping that Jason Schreier will do one of those books on Ubisoft, my favorite video game company ever, uh, and most problematic probably video game company. But since the last episode, I've mostly just been catching up on all of the television that I've been missing out on. I'm not good at keeping up with shows that are in progress. My typical reaction is usually just, oh, I'm going to wait for all the episodes to come out first, because if it's good, then I'm going to want to keep watching it. Or if it's bad, then I can just quit knowing that everyone else saw it and they weren't talking about it because it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I broke that streak when I decided to watch Rick and Morty the anime, which, in my opinion, is very good. Everyone's like weirdly butthurt about how it's nothing like the show that it's adapting, and it's what weird stuff have I seen? It's a perversion of the anime art form, like just all the worst takes from people who don't know, have no idea what they're talking about. It's very well animated, aside from the first Tammy fight scene. Thankfully, it's never that bad throughout the rest of the show. um, but yeah, I riding the high of Rick and Morty the anime being good. I started picking up other shows. I started rewatching Kamen Rider Gav. It's a Kamen Rider who's like powered by snacks and candy. It's very cool. It's following that trend of like Kamen Riders being very colorful, abstract-ish looking guys, which is
Mm-hmm.
very neat to see because they put in the extra work to make the costumes like not look like dog shit. Um,
And
I
this
also
this is
started
a
watching The
more
Penguin.
recent one,
Yeah,
Common
like
Rider.
as of like us recording, Gav is like ongoing. I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
how many
So it's the
episodes.
current. That
Yeah.
makes sense because you're just talking about following stuff as it comes out. Uh, yeah. No, I've seen a couple of clips of that, and it looks interesting. I'll say that. Kamen Rider always looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like more, for lack of a better term, goofy than some of the recent series, in my opinion at least. But it maintains that classic Kamen Rider edge. Like compared to other Sentai shows squarely targeted at kids, Kamen Rider has always been more believable in terms of like the implied danger on the screen, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been enjoying myself with that. Um, I also was watching The Penguin, uh, which for a spin-off from a character from the Batman movie wouldn't have been my first pick. You know, if someone said, "Oh, we're going to make a TV show about the Penguin from that movie, the one with Robert Pattinson in it," I would have said, "No, that's stupid. What's wrong with you?" And I would have been wrong because this show is awesome. The guy playing the Penguin, what's his name?
Colin Farrell.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Um, didn't know he had it in him, even though I saw the
Yeah.
movie.
No, that's the thing. When you watch the movie, he doesn't have tons of screen time, so you don't really think about his part too much. You know, I went and rewatched the Batman after watching a few episodes of the Penguin, and like having seen the Penguin and spent so much more time with that performance, I see it in the Batman. Like I see it's all there. Like all the little character beats and how he talks and the way he moves, you know, it's in there. I
Yeah,
just never noticed it. But yeah, no, it's great. He acts his ass off.
and
But I agree. I would never have said, "Oh, the Penguin is the guy to make a show out of." But
and
it works.
they kind of pull it off. Like, you know, everyone loves gangster television. Um, Not a day goes by there isn't someone making a Sopranos reference. Even at like my workplace, they're all like quoting Tony Soprano, and I'm like, is that work appropriate? I've never seen The Sopranos, but I know that's a Sopranos reference.
Same. I have also never seen Sopranos.
But yeah, they make it work. I like a lot of the character performances. It's also very funny to watch in its contemporary setting. Like it was kind of ambiguous in terms of like what the timeline of the Batman movie was exactly, but then the Penguin show was like, oh, it's 2002. Like no, I'm sorry, 2022. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is like very modern times, alternate reality, comic book television.
Mm-hmm. I really like that it follows up on those plot beats from the movie with the city being all messed up.
Yeah, after the Riddler's big flood thing, which did happen. It's not like they can pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, and the city's reeling from it, which makes sense and is exactly what you'd expect. Um, and I even like that it kind of justifies, without even having to justify it like explicitly, why Batman never shows up in this show. Because they mentioned like the city's falling apart. There's crime everywhere. He's not going to be everywhere at once. There's
Yeah.
apparently multiple crime families. How many crime families can one city support? I'm curious about that. In real life, I wonder how many mobs can you get in a single city? Gotham seems packed with them.
If I were to approach Gotham as like an analog for like any sort of Manhattan borough, I would assume it's probably like the whole island, maybe some extra.
That
Maybe.
would make sense. Um, I often hear Gotham get equated to New Jersey.
Oh.
I often hear a lot of bad things about New Jersey. I don't really know much about New Jersey aside from the fact that somehow Jersey Shore came from there. And I don't much care for that. So if that's any reflection of Jersey or Jersey people, then those jokes are probably right.
Yeah, if that's what Jersey is producing, put the lid back on. Return to sender.
Yeah, you can keep all your situations. I do love that. I love that South Park episode where it turns out that Kyle's mother got pregnant in Jersey. So even though he was born in South Park, he's got Jersey in him, and he like turns Jersey as the Jersey people approach town and are taking over the planet or America. That was a wild episode, uh, especially when they had the like Taliban take all those planes and crash them into the hordes of Jersey people. I was like in college when this episode came out, and I was like, damn. I was surprised I was surprised they got away with that because it was closer to 9/11 back then. It'd only been like
Yeah.
10 years.
That's that kind of edge that I guess people want from television, you know?
Yeah, they
It's
want
the censor that's keeping it from being more widespread.
fair. True. So, Sophia Falcone, she is the fucking best. She is the queen.
My
She's so
favorite
good in that
character.
show. Oh man, how did you feel during the sequence where she is imprisoned? That whole episode had me so riled. It was so well done.
Oh, yeah. It made me very angry. Like, I realized, oh, I hate the penguin. if I wasn't on her side already, which I was, I'm like triple on his side.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
100%.
on her side.
Yeah, totally. That was, oh man, that was so awful. And
Like, I kept waiting for it to like break sequence, and it's like, no, this is the whole episode, and you're gonna sit in it. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting in it. I don't like it.
yeah, they did such a good job setting the vibe and making it gruesome. And oh my goodness, when she finally like beats the crap out of that one person, holy crap, it was a lot. It was really good though. It was powerful. And then the next episode, she just goes and like dead ass takes over the family.
Yeah.
I, I, I love when she like Just the second VD said anything, just bam, gone.
Yeah, that was very satisfying. Not happy that he like wasn't on board because his whole like monologue about her mother made me think, oh, okay, he's seen the error of his ways. You know, he's waking up. It sucks
Mhm.
that she had to freeze him to death to make it happen, but you know, that's the Sophia method, I guess. But nope, Johnny was too deep in the sauce, I guess.
Yeah, and then just the way she like so nonchalantly does it, and the show, it doesn't give any focus to it. It doesn't zoom in on it. It doesn't replay it. It's just like bam, a thing that happened as if it was nothing.
Yeah, it
And
really put you in like her mindset. Like she's so done with all of that. Like she was making a point about how all the family's old stuff is over, but then Johnny's like, no, no, we've got to make it about the family stuff. And it's like, no.
yep. And I mean, honestly, like she gives like, not to like make it corny, but she gives like supervillain vibes. She gives like the whole
Oh yeah, I
just
was into it.
chaotic
Like
thing.
if I was one of those guys, I would absolutely be on her side because like it's she's talking about criminal activity, but she's also like, you know, you'll be treated fairly and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I dig that. Let's go.
Yeah, let's socialize crime. I like
I
it.
don't like her little butt boy, Dr. Julian, or rather, I just don't like that his name is Julian.
Yeah, I wonder what's gonna be up with him. I don't quite. Something's gonna be up with him. I feel like, but I don't
I feel
quite
like
know what
he
yet.
will probably be one of those villains whenever they bring back the Batman. He seems like perfect Batman psychopath material.
I can see it, and there's no shortage of like Batman villains that come from like psychiatric backgrounds.
True. Also, wow, Clancy Brown. I remember hearing that he was going to retire, and I guess that was all lies because he keeps showing up and stuff, and he keeps killing it.
Yeah, yeah. Man, actors never retire. I didn't know he was supposed to have retired, but actors do be saying that and then not retiring.
Yeah, I think it was around like 2014, 2015. He did that video game, and maybe it was just the fact that he had to work with I forget the name of the company. They made Heavy Rain. It's that very famous company with the terrible director David Cage. Oh, here we go. Quantic Dream. Yeah. My headcanon is he worked with Quantic Dream, hated it, and then said, I'm not doing this anymore.
He
But maybe he
rage
just
quit.
needed to work with like an actual film company.
Yeah, he just had to get his passion back. I can see that maybe acting for a video game could maybe sour you on it. Maybe they're clowns in video game companies and like working with them's hard.
Well, that's definitely the case at Quantic Dream. Like, normally I'm a little weirdo. I'm like, oh, the French, they're so awesome, so cool. France's art scene is the best. You know, everyone's like, place Japan. No, place France. However, Quantic Dream is very, very weird. Probably not a great place to work, especially because of the fact that David Cage is like front and center, the guy like in charge of everything. Maybe if it was any other company, like the company that does those Life is Strange games, maybe that would have been a better experience.
What's the deal with with David Cage? What makes him so bad? I looked him up on Wikipedia. Oh, this is funny, right? The only
Mhm.
thing under personal life for him is Cage is an atheist. That is the entire personal life section for him on Wikipedia.
David Cage kind of has this vibe of a guy that, how would I describe it? He doesn't understand people, but there's no way it's like due to something benign like autism or something like that. He might just be a bad guy.
He's just a sociopath or like
Yeah.
a lizard person. I used to a long time. Yeah. Sometimes when people are too cold, I think of them as lizard people. I don't know why. That might be mean to lizards, but
And what's funny is that like he writes all of the flagpole games that Quantic Dream develops. So if you peer too closely into like the racism allegory of Detroit Become Human, it's very poorly written, and you just got to wonder, like, did anyone like step in, examine his work, and when they did, what was the response? Because it could have used an extra pass.
I've
I
never
think there's
played.
also allegations of like weird behavior on his part in the workplace. It's been a few years, so I don't remember the particulars though. It's just one of those things that sits in the back of your head like, oh, okay, there's a musty nonsense going on with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Just floats around and you don't quite remember what it is, but you know when you see that guy, it's a bad vibe.
Yeah.
You know, I've never played Detroit Become Human, but I remember it was all the rage for a little bit.
Yeah,
It was.
conceptually it's very interesting. It's basically a visual novel with really good CGI animation and motion capture performances. But the story is kind of rubbish. If you like examine it too much, I'm sure like on a first playthrough, it's like, oh, okay, that happened. But then second playthrough, it's like, eh.
Oh my
Third
goodness.
playthrough through, it's like, oh, I think I'm done.
I was looking at the Wikipedia article for this game, and this is the pictures they put of the writers. And that guy on the right, Adam Williams, he looks like we're popping in to like look at a Bethesda chat. Like the camera's about to zoom in on his face. He's gonna say something that doesn't quite match his mouth movements. I don't know what it is. Is it because he's looking dead ass at the camera and like with his eyebrows up? Something about it is.
It's also the dynamic lighting. They're like blasting the floodlights all the way
Oh,
from the left, but then
you're
like
right.
the right side of his face is completely enveloped in shadow.
Yeah, that's a very dramatic lighting for something that was not part of a movie shot.
For what
Like,
is definitely just a normal, I assume, industry conference. Maybe he was like giving a lecture or something.
yeah, this feels to me like it's a panel someplace or something. It's got that stuff in the background. He's definitely sitting at a table with like five other people.
Maybe David Cage said something off color, and then Adam here
He
did
jimmed
a
the
fourth wall
camera.
break. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, and other things this week. Uh, unless you have anything else to say about Penguin, I wish I had some more insight, but it's not quite over yet, and I'm
Really good
mostly just.
soundtrack. I like that they're doing that thing that Marvel does where the episode ends with a new song, which a lot of shows do, but it's usually like something that you would catch on Showtime of all places. Um, so yeah, bringing that to the masses, for lack of a better term, I appreciate. But other than that, pretty cool show. Big fan of Christian Milioti's performance as Sophia. Love everything that lady does. Every character she like embodies, I'm like, oh, that's so me. Wow. Finally, it's me on the screen.
What else has she been in, I wonder? Because I didn't. Oh, she was in Wolf of Wall Street, apparently. Didn't know that. Don't know what she did.
Yeah. She was in
Oh,
Fargo and Mythic Quest. Best episode of Mythic Quest is all about a character that she plays.
have you seen the movie Palm Springs with the Andy Samberg
No,
and
I
her?
had been meaning to, but I never got around to it.
I didn't realize that that was her, but that is a really good movie. I would totally recommend it. I'm not gonna spoil any plot, but I will tell you it involves a time loop.
I love time loops.
Yeah, it's like a Groundhog Day. It's like a Groundhog Day rom com, kind of, but with a twist. It's good. It's good. I think it was like a Hulu movie or something because I remember watching it on there.
That makes sense. I am not a Hulu customer, so that might be why that movie passed me by.
That would do it. I am a Hulu customer right now because, as I mentioned before, they've got that bundle. It's pretty cost effective. I like would pirate more media, but it honestly it's a pain in the ass to pirate if you don't actually have have an established connection to like a good torrent tracker. So,
Yeah, like a good pipeline, for lack of a better term.
mhm.
Like they're the drug dealers and the junkie that I am. I always know where to go for my media drops.
Yeah, I yeah, and they say it's a service issue. Uh, and right now the services are cheap enough to where I can get enough content legally off a streaming service without having to pay too much. That I don't have tons of motivation to pirate things outside of like super specific, hard to get things.
Yeah, they finally figured it out.
But they probably are gonna fuck it up soon. I have no confidence that this will stay like this forever. I'm sure. I mean, it's already getting worse. Because like physical media is dying out, which like saddens and terrifies me. You know, you like big box beer retailers are, they don't stock physical media anymore. They're taking them out of the stores. You're not going to be able to get like just Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is crazy because they're still making them. Like there was a SpongeBob box set that was announced recently. It's like a bunch of the early seasons on DVD of all things.
it really seems like it's starting to go to this collector market for
Oh,
physical
that makes
media,
sense.
and so we're getting stuff like that, and there there's a big focus on like the steelbook market, but they're also like raising prices on that. Steelbooks are getting like more expensive, and I'm not a big steelbook collector or anything. I usually only pick them up. Um, I usually only buy physical media for shows that I really, really enjoy and I want to show support for. So
Yeah.
like when Lower Decks was not canceled, I was buying physical media for that show. Physical media for Smiling Friends, that kind of thing. Or like if it's a show I'm worried that's gonna get like partially removed or something, I bought like the entire series of Community because I just wanted to have all those episodes on hand whenever.
Oh,
Especially
yeah. That
like,
is a show famous for like being first on the chopping block.
yeah, and like I know they've taken a couple episodes down over time and stuff like that, and I just like having access to it. But what's really scary to me is how they will just swap out versions of like streaming movies you have,
Yeah.
which is like, wow, you could just totally get messed up. And I don't really care about most versions of shows unless they do something really horrible. But like, the upscaled, like AI upscaled version or like cleaned up version of Predator, that movie looked garbage. Like so bad that I noticed it once I like saw a side by side comparison. I would be pissed if they swapped out my version of the movie for that.
Yeah, I remember there was something wrong with the Disney version of the French Connection. I forget what had changed, but it was a big deal about a year ago. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's a classic. How could Disney do this?" And I guess Disney was on a streak because they also edited streaming copies of Lilo and Stitch to like just take out miscellaneous quote unquote problematic elements.
Yeah. And like I've seen some of them and it on the one hand, it feels silly to complain about some of the changes because like they are very small. I think one was like changing like a washing machine or something because like so kids wouldn't see it or something like that because it
Yeah,
and like the change is minor. It's not a big deal. I'm not like mad about the change. I'm mad about
it's
the
the
principle of
implication.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly. The idea that now the old version's gone, I feel like it should be accessible or it should be documented or I just don't like media getting lost. Um Also it's very like not to like get crazy or conspiratorial, but it's very Orwellian to think that one day they could just swap out I don't know documentaries with new history or something and you never know. Uh
that I feel like that could definitely happen. It kind of sort of does happen, but on a really small scale. Like there are constant revisions to like US history books where stuff gets prioritized or deprioritized.
mhm.
Um, how that translates to other medias, though, I have no awareness of, which thankfully a lot of people make documentaries. We don't have to solely rely on the History Channel for like history video. So hopefully it's not too bad.
Thank God we don't have to rely on them because I don't think they even make it anymore. I've not. I don't watch cable, so I don't know for sure what it's like. But
Yeah, the last time
uh,
I checked in on the History Channel, I think it was just to watch Vikings, which I'm not proud of, but I really liked that show.
which is, and to be clear, a totally fictional show about a Viking family. Like this is like
Yeah,
nothing about it is even claiming to be historical. It
which
just
is
takes
very
place in
unfortunate.
history.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
there's a scene where like they come face to face with some Native Americans in like the later part of the series, and it's very cartoonish. Like there's a
is
crossover between the Flintstones and the Jetsons, where they're just like standing opposite each other, very confused. Like, whoa, these people are weird and strange. And then Fred Flintstone breaks the silence to say, "Yabba dabba, friend." And watching that scene take place in Vikings like broke my brain. I'm like, oh my god, it's just like the Flints meet the the Jetsons meet the Flintstones.
oh my goodness, that is so funny to me that they'd do that. But of course they would. Is
Yeah,
Leif Erikson a named character in there? That would be
I
so funny.
think so. That might have been the side series after the main series.
It's like a whole franchise. Damn.
Yeah, they're kind of doing the Walking Dead for Vikings, where it's like, oh, this character that you kind of sort of like, they get their own show now. Oh, and this character, they get their own show now.
God, they have just driven Walking Dead into the ground. I don't. Has it maintained relevance? I fell off the Walking Dead train pretty soon after I graduated college. At that point, it had gotten so monotonous, I just couldn't care.
I honestly jumped ship the moment the video game came out. I thought the video game was going to be an adaptation of the show that you could play. It being its own thing was definitely for the better, though, because everything I hear about the TV show from the point where I jumped off makes it sound like they really went out of their way to waste the viewer's time. The video game, though, very streamlined, no time wasted, very fun. Um, if it wasn't, if the company that developed it wasn't just like a IP holding skeleton for Warner Bros. Now, I would tell everyone go out and buy that game. I say not to buy it now because Telltale is just a IP holding skeleton for Warner Bros. But you know,
And that is a studio that was a flash in the pan. They were.
truly,
I remember they had that. They had a couple of big games or like big IP titles that they had worked on. I know they had a Batman game that I think people liked. They had a Game of Thrones game that I don't remember anyone talking about.
I think people hated it. It was very dull.
That would make sense. I played the first episode of the Walking Dead game and I did enjoy it. I never bought the rest of it. I don't know why, but it was. I mean, it was good. I've never read the comic for Walking Dead. I've read some issues of it. I know that it's quite different plot wise.
I've heard weird things about the comic that I've yet to go out of my way to validate. Um, People are very cagey about the comic, but very vocal and like throwing shade at the guy that wrote it. And I keep forgetting to find out why.
Interesting. I'm curious what kind of shade they throw at Mr. Kirkman. Um,
Let's see.
but yeah, I've not read all. Yeah, I've seen some issues.
Writer.
And I remember it was really popular. I remember even back when I was a kid, hearing some people talk about it online. He really trolled everyone though with how he ended it. This was such a clever move. So he didn't tell people they were ending it, and they actually solicited 2 or 3 issues out for books that never existed. Like put out a fake cover with a fake plot synopsis, took orders, which they refunded, and then surprise, this is the last issue, which caused the big to do.
Oh,
When
here
it
we
did
go.
end.
For some reason, people are not shy about like calling him a sellout and then not explaining what they mean. And that always rubbed me the wrong way because, you know, it's
Yeah.
geek stuff. That's what they do. They explain stuff, but no one's explaining like what makes this guy a sellout.
Yeah, I think
And I
they're
don't want to
just.
read the book and then find out because I don't want to also be angry.
Yeah, I think they might just be mad that that he that he let Walking Dead be a show or something, or like that he signed off the IP for a lot of money. I don't know, because like
Oh, maybe.
I can't see why they would care. I don't know. I see like yeah, he could be that. I don't know. Maybe they got pissed off with how much of it there is now because they've got several shows and all the spin-offs and stuff. But
That's
yeah, I really
weird.
don't know.
If I
That's
had a thing I liked, I would probably be happy that there's more of it being made.
yeah, that's interesting. I will have to look it up because I've not heard that specific critique of Kirkman before.
Yeah, now that I've
Uh,
brought it up, I'm writing myself a note to look into it more, just to like get a better understanding of what the scenario is. I probably won't agree, but I'll at least know.
he's pretty a wild success story though. He's the only person to be a partner at Image Publishing that wasn't a founder of it.
Ooh, how does that
That
happen? Guess we'll find out.
Because Walking Dead was so wildly successful as a comic to kind of single-handedly carry Image for a long time with how much money it made.
Yeah, like it kind of existed as its own entity almost in the public zeitgeist. People didn't really associate it with Image, at least like from what I could see.
Yeah. I mean, Image on its own is supposed to very much be, it's not trying to be like DC or Marvel. They don't
Yeah.
Image has no ownership of anything. It's not really
By and
trying
large, there's
to,
no house style, which is always terrible. Thank goodness they don't do that.
yeah. So their Image really doesn't try to make it to make it about itself. It really puts the work forward. But yeah, I mean, even like people who don't like comics would talk about Walking Dead. It really broke out of the little containment bubble that comics get stuck in. Really similar to Scott Pilgrim in a way, like that same kind of popularity. Maybe not quite as viral as the Scott Pilgrim popularity, or maybe just with different sectors. I think it
Yeah,
kind of
definitely
appealed.
a different kind of cult following, for lack of a better term. Like you could almost call Scott Pilgrim fans fanatics, and then Walking Dead fans might just be like normal.
Yeah, but Scott Pilgrim fans, the ones who really like Scott Pilgrim, they really like Scott Pilgrim.
It's a cool show, book. It's also a TV show now, which is amazing. Never
Yeah,
would have expected it in a million years.
and it was a good show too. And I remember I was so happy too that it was like not just a straight adaptation.
Yeah,
Um, for like a second, I was like kind of sad, but like within the first like episode or two, it had like already charmed me. With the characters like everyone else had, and then they still had Scott in there. They had plenty of Scott, and they had Will Forte voicing adults like future Scott,
yeah. I love
which
that Will Forte is still getting work. Hashtag free the Coyote movie.
100%. I want to see it. I love Will Forte. He's so funny. Uh, I've loved him ever since Tandy. Uh,
Tandy.
yeah, what a
What a
show that
character.
was. Uh, Last Man on Earth. Is that the name of it? I think.
Yeah. Which terrible name. He does not remain the last man on earth for very long.
No.
False advertising.
That was, man. I'm so sad that that show didn't get like a proper ending because it was very good.
Something that I really like about it is that when I was like probably 8 years old, 9 years old, I had a VHS tape with a recording for a show called Whoops. And the premise of the show is that the world ended and only a few people survived. And they're living together. And every episode was like a allegorical examination of some aspect of society that the characters find themselves unwittingly recreating amongst themselves. And when that started happening in The Last Man on Earth, I'm like, oh, this is just Whoops. Oh, I love this.
That sounds like a good show. What I'm
It
gonna have to
was
look that up.
okay.
It
It
was
was one of those
okay. Okay.
single cam stage show kind of things. I think it was on Fox, which might explain why it was so cheap looking. Fox would just like greenlit whatever if you could like do it on a low budget. So they would bring shows up, show it. If the numbers weren't there, they would cancel it immediately. They're like, "Get out of here! I'm mixed Fox, and I say what is and isn't television, and this isn't television, not anymore."
Yeah, it's a night from 1992. Yeah, it is wild how TV used to be like that.
Yeah,
Uh, I feel like you don't see as many like cheap pilots like that anymore, or as many like weird things like what was that show that Dan Harmon tried to make with Jack Black or whatever. I don't know what channel that was for, but it sounds like the kind of thing.
Heat Vision and Jack, but the character played by Jack Black was Heat Vision, and his talking bike was Jack, I think.
Yeah.
Which, a talking bike? What? I wish that show kept going because I needed some explanation for that.
I feel like, was it just like a Knight Rider reference? Was
I
that
think
what they were
so.
going on? Which I don't even know how I get that reference because like I never watched that show. I think I only know about it from must be Family Guy. Whenever there's like a 80s reference that I get, but I don't know why, I just blame Family Guy.
That makes sense. They're very on the nose when it comes to those kinds of references. Like, I think I remember seeing a Andy Warhol joke once, and it was very much like, "Yep, that's Andy Warhol." If someone knew nothing about them, this would tell them everything they needed to know.
Yeah, I love I did not know a lot about Andy Warhol until recently. But when I did learn about him, there's an episode of Venture Bros that was a lot funnier because
Oh, from the later season,
yeah.
where Rusty is getting arched by a art villain who throws him a big party, and the arch is that he's so distracted by the party that he doesn't notice that they're robbing him.
Yep. He's got him there. He's treating him like he's his muse and acting as if he's doing art and stuff. And like by the end of it, he's just taking all of his shit. It's so good. It's so funny. And the impression that they do for it is spot on. Um, Doc Hammer, or yeah, I think it's Doc Hammer that is the twinkish one. He's a big like art person, very big into like doing oil paintings and really knowledgeable about the art scene and stuff. So there's tons of little references to art that go over my head in Venture Bros. But I see people on the subreddit explain them sometimes. And it's really kind of impressive how chock full of just, I guess not necessary homage, what is the show is, I guess.
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of these guys, Doc Hammer and Jason Public. Doc Hammer really does look like a middle-aged twink. It's amazing.
Yeah, he like somehow survived the twink death.
He kind of reminds me of Tetsuya Nomura. He's clinging to that brief period that he remembers where everything like clicked into place. He's like, yes, I can hold my hair this way. I can dye it. I'll do this until I die.
Yeah. He's got such a striking face to like I know this is really good lighting, but like the his cheekbones, like boom.
Very
He's
well
also played in
defined,
a
yeah.
band, which is cool.
Oh wow, what is this photo? I see him. I think that other guy looks like that dude from Supernatural who plays the autistic angel. That might not be him.
For those BD fans who don't know, Ben Edlund actually writes for and co-produces Supernatural.
Oh.
I guess the guy from Whoa, that's legitimately, is that Castile? It kind of looks like Castile.
Kinda, yeah. I'm like, is that him? I don't want to like do that thing where I'm like, yeah, that's that celebrity. But also like the guy behind them, I'm like, is that the dude that like played the Prisoner of Azkaban?
Oh, that is Castile on the right. I just looked it up. I wouldn't even be surprised.
All these famous guys just know each other.
I mean, that Venture Bros is so good. I think among creative spheres is probably like really well liked as well. So I could see it being like a door opener, like having worked on that. Or
Oh,
actually not even just worked on it, being like one of the primary voices of it. I know I have a copy of, I think it's like the art of or making of Venture Bros book that is um quite out of print now, and I'm very happy to have it. So I
okay. I
bought
might
it.
just have like mild face blindness. There's no way in heck that's Gary Oldman behind these guys. Go Team Venture, the art and making of the Venture Bros.
Yeah, it's a.
Whoa, you have a copy of this? This
I
thing is
do.
retailing for like $350.
Yes, it is very out of print now, and I bought it when it came out. The second it came out, I ordered it, and
Hell yeah.
I never expected it. You know, I don't know. I guess in my mind, I never thought about books going out of print or not keeping something in print indefinitely that's niche. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm never letting that go. I was a little sad that it was released. So like there's one season that's not included in here. Or it might be
Yeah.
2 seasons now because of when it came out. But it does have like the first 6 seasons in there. And like for each episode there's a bit where they both talk about it. Um it's a lot of really cool stuff. I've actually read that book cover to cover, which I don't always do for art of books. Like I've always flipped through them, but I don't always read every single blurb and line and thing in a book. But I did for that because they're just so interesting. Even the way they write and talk about the show is very interesting. I don't know. I'm just very enamored with them.
Yeah, not every art book has that level of I guess cohesion and like information to provide as you're describing.
Yeah,
Typically it's like, oh, we have some concept art. Let's smash it into a book.
that
You'd
is
be
what a
lucky
lot
to
of them
get
are.
a blurb that's worthwhile.
100%. And I have like a ton of art books. I kind of collect those alongside my comic collection. Um, because I really have always been the kind of person who like loves to see like the how the sausage is made, all the behind the scenes work,
Oh yeah.
what goes into it. Like DVD special feature culture was really strong when I was young. It's like I had the like Lord of the Rings special edition box sets, which was like each one is like 10 or 12 hours of like behind the scenes footage and stuff. And I would like watch those all the time. And when I learned
And
on
that sort of
audio,
thing did exist on VHS tapes, but it was very rare. And if it wasn't like just a little thing before the movie, then they would at least like have it as a separate cassette. Like I remember the first Ninja Turtles movie, the live action one, you could get a like 40-minute making of feature bundled with the movie on a second tape. And when
whoa,
we had that, we wore out that tape. I think that making a featurette wasn't even included on initial DVD releases, which was insane. But it also like made us care more about the VHS copies. Like because of that disparity, we didn't get rid of VHS until probably like I want to say 2012. And that was just because it became too expensive to replace VCRs because we would watch stuff every day and they would destroy themselves through frequent use.
yep,
It's like that
VHS is
Red Letter Media gag of like the VHS repair guys.
that is such a funny setup. I love that little conceit for the show they have there. Uh, I never had any special features on VHS like that. I did have special edition Star Wars, And that had a thing at the beginning of every VHS where like the first
Hell
30
yeah.
minutes was like George Lucas going through and talking about every change that he had made to the movie. Which in retrospect is really funny now that I know how much people hate that fans at the time hated that he made those changes. I didn't care because I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I loved the singing monster and Return of the Jedi. That bit was my jam. But it almost is like a troll now that I think about it, though.
Yeah, someone puts in the tape, they're sitting down to watch Star Wars, and he, like, shows up and he's like, "Hello, I'd like to tell you everything that I've changed."
There is one change in there that drives me crazy, and I can't believe that he did this, that people let him do this, that
Did
no one
he,
said George.
remove the, Princess Leia Luke kiss?
No, no, this is in A New Hope when he puts in the scene with Jabba and he has Han walk behind him and step on his and step
Oh,
on,
that
like,
was an addition?
yeah, that was a special
Okay.
edition ad because they CGI Jabba the Hutt in there. When they had originally filmed it, it was before he had actually written Return of the Jedi, so they didn't know that he was a giant slug monster. They just had a
Right.
guy who was him, and he was a
Oh.
costumed guy. But in part of it, Han walks behind him, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can't have him do that." So then I came up with the idea: I'll just have him step on his tail, and
Oh, that's
it,
clever.
yeah, except it looks terrible. It looks so bad.
I've only
And
ever seen the original trilogy on television, so I'm probably, like, looking at it through, weird goggles because it was also a really old TV that we used to watch them on. I thought it was an okay effect.
maybe,
Maybe if I watch
maybe,
it in HD, it'll be like when you watch something on Blu-ray and you can see, like, all the strings and the seams, then I'll feel like, "Oh, this is rubbish."
yeah, I would say give it a watch sometime. You don't have to watch it right now. I'm just gonna put the links here for easy access. But it very much, like, even when I was an uncritical kid, I was like, oh, I don't like that. Wish you hadn't done that, George. I don't really care. Like I would have not been mad if this scene wasn't in the movie because it didn't really do much. But I was also a kid, so it didn't really bother me that much. I was just like, whatever, let's watch it 100 more times. Um,
I like that addition, though. I always thought it was funny that he would step on his tail and then, you can almost feel, like, the, seething, like, contempt in, Jabba's face. I would
yeah,
definitely take a look at this later, because I might be, viewing it through nostalgia glasses, and I'd have to correct that.
there is an interesting angle there where, like, I don't know, it did always kind of confuse me. Like, why would Jabba not shoot him dead over that? Because it feels insulting to, like, have a dude walk on you. I don't know. I'd be insulted if someone walked on. Well, if
Maybe
most
Han
people
Solo is
walked
just,
on
like,
me.
that bad of a dude.
Han
Like,
Solo is a bad dude. He is
Jabba
a.
could retaliate, but he knows what, Han is capable of.
It could set Han up, and Han was not a good guy. He was supposed to be. He's hanging out in the hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah.
He's not a great guy. He becomes a good guy, but that's more because Luke's so good that he brings out the goodness in others, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie for children, which is okay because it's still good. Uh, but man, what really blew my mind away was when we made the leap from VHS special editions to DVD special editions.
Oh, yeah, DVD was insane, all the stuff that they would put in those things. It's
That
wild.
was my first taste of getting a documentary because Empire of Dreams came on its own disc with that
Ooh.
set. And that was like a 90-minute documentary about the making of the first 3 Star Wars movies. And I watched that a billion times. And they have it on Disney Plus now. So sometimes I still put it on and it will be like my background noise, and like I remember so many of the interviews and the music and like all the old clips they play. It's like seared in my brain because I watched that so much.
That's how
And
I
the
feel about
audio,
the special edition DVD for Attack of the Clones. Like the whole Attack of the Clones media ecosystem, I think, is how kids must feel about Star Wars now. We are just like getting hit with new stuff constantly, but I wouldn't have gotten to that point of like being so enamored with the series if it wasn't for that Attack of the Clones DVD set. Because they have the movie, which on its own, pretty good. It's a movie, but also the menu would do this thing where it would change randomly to like represent different parts of the movie, like that planet that Obi-Wan goes to where it's like raining, that's a menu. And then like the part where they're fighting all of the droids in the Coliseum, that's a menu screen. And then the one that one would normally go to, the big planet with the city Coruscant, an overhead shot of that is like the first menu that shows up. But if you like pause the movie, go back to it while you're watching the movie or something like that, like go back to the menu, it was different each time. And that was mind blowing. But then like the special edition, or rather special features, was like chock full of stuff. Like if that was your first Star Wars movie ever, it didn't matter because the second disc was full of like a bunch of character stuff to make sure you knew who anyone was. Like they had a whole freaking Boba Fett like behind the scenes documentary in there. I think it was like just 30 minutes of like, who is Boba Fett? Whoa, isn't he cool? Well, you just saw the movie, so you know his father, Jango Fett, is who the clones are made after. It's that whole thing that they do now where like there's supplementary material for your supplementary material. Like those animated videos that Marvel has on YouTube that like explains who the heck Squirrel Girl is in like 3 minutes. But they put all of that on a DVD.
yeah, I loved that stuff. And to go to what you said about menus, they used to really try with
Oh yeah.
DVD menus. It's really sad today that a lot of modern Blu-rays, you'll buy them more space than ever to put data on these discs, and they want to give you a menu that's a static image that like literally looks like something one person could whip up on their own at
Oh,
home.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's so sad how far it has gone. Um, I do find it funny though. This is kind of a weird inversion on the whole VHS thing. Sometimes now when you buy movies, so I'll buy some movies, even though I know I'm just licensing them, but I'll buy some movies digitally just because I don't care so hard about owning them or getting the special features.
Yeah.
But sometimes they will come with it. So I know
Oh.
my copy of Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok, for some reason has a bunch of special features that start after the movie ends. If you leave the video running, there's
Wow.
like 50 minutes or an hour of like basically all those little featurettes that would be a segment on a DVD. They just plopped them in there. And I don't know how common that is or was, but it definitely reminded me of like the exact opposite of how they used to do those VHSs.
And is this like on Prime or something?
Yeah, yeah, this
Or
is Prime.
oh,
My
okay.
copy on Prime.
I'm not aware of like where one can buy films digitally, or rather just quote unquote licensed films, because we all know we don't own any of that garbage. The last time I purchased something digitally was when Veep was still on TV. I think I purchased the last season on YouTube. No, not YouTube. Google Play TV. But because it was Google, your Play purchases would appear as YouTube purchases as well.
Yeah,
So I'm not familiar with like Prime or Movies Anywhere or any of those things.
yeah, I've never used movies anywhere. There's so many of them now. There's like Voodoo. There's And when you buy Blu-rays, like they're always giving you this code that you can go redeem on a website and get a digital copy of the movie, but you need an account with this website.
Yeah.
And then I've heard other people talk about there's other places where you can go and like I don't know. I've heard some people be like you can get it in multiple stores if you have it or something, but I've never really looked into it because I don't love like buying digitally because like you never get commentaries and stuff. So like I tend to only buy a movie digitally if I know I don't want it physically and it's a pain in the ass to get on streaming services. Or like it's a movie that shuffles around streaming services a lot.
Which they do, yeah. It's insane.
Lots of horror movies love to be off of streaming services in October.
There's that one franchise, what was it? Pearl, that's apparently like 4 different movies, but they're all like spread across different streaming services. So if you watched X and you're like, "Oh, there's more of this? Where is it? It's not on the service I watched X on." Huh.
Yeah, I've run into that scenario more than once. I think he even
I think
ran
at one
into
point that
that.
was happening with Doctor Who, but apparently it all lives on Disney Plus now, which, yeah, not good. Uh, I will never purchase Disney Plus, but I guess great for people who are purchasing Disney Plus. They get all the Doctor Who in one place now.
They do. They got. I didn't realize that they had Doctor Who on there. Um, I have watched a bit of Doctor Who. I've never watched the old ones outside of like catching the occasional stream when they would, for some reason, show it on Twitch. I
Ooh.
remember. Yeah. I remember a while back there was this trend of like streaming shows to Twitch for some reason, like official ones. Like they had an official Pokemon anime stream for like a bit, or like they had an official Doctor Who one for a bit. It was always for stuff, I think. I can't remember what, but
I guess that's not that strange. Companies do that on YouTube all the time because they know that like people are doing it illegally. So I guess the refrain is, "Oh well, it must be making them money. We could use some of that money."
you know what's really funny to me is that there's a bunch of movies that you can watch on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
And like every now and then, YouTube will autoplay one.
Oh.
So I'll just walk into my bedroom, if like my like rain sounds have autoplayed into a movie, and I don't. It's just so weird to walk in there and there's a movie you didn't put on, and it's
I
like
was not in
halfway
the mood
through,
for Barton Fink, but I guess I will watch it now.
and it's such a bizarre collection of movies too. Like I can't remember all the ones I've seen recently, but I know they have like the Judge Dredd remake, the like 2012 one.
Oh, that's really recent. Wow.
Yeah, right. And it's on there for free, and it's always changing. But yeah, it's kind of up there with when you get an advertisement, and then the advertisement is actually like a 2 hour long video. Thankfully, that's never happened to me because I do pay for the YouTube Premium. Um,
Yeah, YouTube
like
is very
ads,
cruel
but
to me. Um, right now, I am locked out of being able to watch any YouTube, and I'm getting conflicting information in terms of like if I have technically illegally downloaded videos off of the platform too many times, or if it is just like a random glitch. But even before that, YouTube would like delete my playlists, which I'm the only one looking at the playlists. I don't know why they're deleting them. Or just like locking my account for offenses when I'm not publishing any content to the website or even commenting. Like, I am the perfect customer. I pay for premium. I never comment. I'm not uploading like smut to their website, for lack of a better term, but they're
mhm.
constantly like needling me and pushing me from utilizing the service. And I still pay them. Even now, while I don't have access to the website, I'm still paying them
Yeah,
because it is just that good. They figured out video.
they did figure out video, and I do appreciate not having ads on it, especially this time of year. Half the time that I click, for some reason it's broken. If you click the link inside Discord embed, it like doesn't realize that it doesn't like catch your credentials for some reason. So every now and then I'll click that. I'll get a political ad, and then I'll be like, "Oh, going to the actual website now."
It might be
And
because Discord is its own like browser environment as opposed to
mm-hmm.
like being directly keyed into Chromium, which is probably good for security. At least you wouldn't want cookies if your browser has been compromised to then bleed into your Discord.
This
Um,
is true.
but it is very annoying for what you just described, where like someone says, check out this funny show or this cool music video, and then immediately hits you with like some very cheap political nonsense where they
Yeah.
know, oh, people in this very young age demographic will be watching, let's pay to show them a PragerU video.
God, PragerU, they are gross, and I'm not gonna go into more detail than that.
Very awful organization.
Uh, yeah, they would YouTube. You know what is speaking of things that happen in Discord that's kind of annoying. For some reason lately, a lot of Twitter links on my phone, if I click them from Discord, they don't want to open the Twitter app. They want to open the browser.
Oh,
So, yeah, which is really annoying because I'm not automatically signed in on my browser, which I could just sign in to Twitter on my browser. But I don't want to do that because then I'd have to find out what my password is. And I don't know what my Twitter password is off the top of my head. So that would involve, I don't know, a few minutes of work that I don't want to do. Uh,
yeah, which would it even be worth it, to find your password for the Elon site? Probably
right?
not.
Exactly.
If anything, it
Uh,
might be like the best thing to happen for that whole week if you like lost access to your account.
Probably would be.
Aside from the
Um,
fact that I think last time I checked, you're mostly sharing art, so you want to have access to that for
yeah,
that
I
at
do want
least.
to share my. All right. Although, to be fair, I have like no reach on Twitter and no
Oh yeah, I have
concept of how to get
gutter
reach.
reach.
Yeah, same. I've never quite cracked the Twitter nut, and I'm starting to suspect that I won't. And also that at this point, the nut isn't worth cracking.
Yeah. Which sucks because if the website ever like magically changed hands to literally anyone else, then maybe it would be worth the effort. But as it is now, nah.
Yeah. So the workaround I have found is if I copy the link and then I put it in my notes app and then I highlight the link and hit open, it will open it in Twitter, the actual app.
Oh, are you on
Yeah,
a Android device?
I am on an Android device.
I recall, and it's been probably like 7 years since I've actually had to adjust this, but there used to be a setting where you could tell Android, if I'm opening a link in this app, then do this. And that would allow it to like direct where it's like manipulating your links, because the
Interesting.
default function is that it would just open up the corresponding app with a particular like URL set, which is how you can get like three different variations of shortened YouTube URL, but they all open the YouTube app.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I was changing it because I had multiple Tumblr accounts. And so I would want to be able to differentiate between the Tumblr app and the Tumblr website in the mobile browser. And so I told my phone, when I'm opening up a Tumblr link in the browser, just open it in the browser. Don't open it in the app. And it did it. That's why I love Android. But I don't know if they ever took that away or not. You might have to see if that's what's happening, maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look because it probably is something related to that in all likelihood. Um, yeah, I like Android too. I find it odd that uh, it's like so unpopular now, I guess. Not unpopular, it just, I don't know, it does seem unpopular. It seems it's lost a lot of market share.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm moving to iOS," which I always thought that's strange. Why would you go to the platform that gives you less control? But I guess people are really concerned about privacy, and Google's like response to address privacy on the Android platform might have been too little, too late. Because I remember when it came to Android, you did have to do a lot of stuff for yourself, but now uh, Big Brother Android is kind of like constantly breathing down your neck, constantly going, "Hey, did you know this app has these outrageous permissions?" And I'm like, "Yes, Android, I set the permissions when I got the damn phone. Why do you keep telling me this?"
Interesting. I do like that it gives you control, although I've never even been one who really does lots of granular stuff. But I've also never thought of Apple as being more private or secure than Android.
Oh yeah, that's all
Like,
very recent.
yeah, does Apple, what does Apple do that makes them supposedly more secure? I feel like it's all just cloud stuff. They're all just like
Yeah.
stockpiling data on you and just keeping it around, and like if it's not Android, it's someone else. They're all just doing it.
It's probably because it is like mostly cloud that they are able to sell people on the privacy aspect. Like they could just say, "Oh, you have the ability to control what does and doesn't get shared," and maybe they're able to make good on that offering. But I'm not confident in it because there was that brief period, probably like at least 10 years at this point. There was a huge like iCloud leak. Um, like every celebrity nude that you
Mm-hmm.
see is circulated on the internet came from that leak. You
I
know,
believe that was referred to as the fappening.
yeah. If you ever wanted to see Scarlett Johansson's breasts without permission in the context of a feature film, they're out there. Thanks, Apple. But
Yeah.
in the same intonation as like thanks, Obama. You know, you're not saying "Gee Willikers, thanks, Apple." It's like, "Oh, gee, thanks, Apple."
I bet the celebrities love that. Uh, that reminds me of a. They play with a. There's a bit on Ted Lasso where that happens to someone. They get
Oh
hacked,
yeah.
and some very private stuff goes out there, and that's a whole
What a
plot
great
point.
show.
It was. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew we talked about it, and you mentioned not knowing that it had been produced by Apple TV, but I wasn't sure if you had seen it. That was a really good show.
Yeah, that's how out of the loop I am when it comes to streaming stuff. I will watch things devoid of the context of where they come from. Like we were talking to some friends last night, and one of them asked, "Where does how oh no, what we do in the shadows streaming on?" And I couldn't answer that because I'm watching it without permission from anyone involved. Even if the recordings do say it's on FX, like that doesn't register in my brain. Um, I watched Ugly Americans illegally on YouTube. I didn't know for years that it was a Comedy Central show because I was watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, it was a Comedy Central show. I remember that aired. I think I was in college when the first season of that aired. I kind of liked it. I don't know if I've seen every episode of it, but the episodes I've liked I thought were kind of funny. If not a little rough around the edges.
Oh yeah, it's
But
very rough. But
I
in a
think they
sort of
had
way that
something.
like some Futurama episodes can be rough, where it's still entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, imagine the nightmare world where Futurama was the show that like ended too early and Ugly Americans went on for so long that it became bad.
Oh goodness. Got revived twice. Twice
Yeah.
too many times. I've not even touched the latest season of Futurama. I've after the last season, I just like no drive to.
Yeah, I did not heed everyone's warnings, and I watched the last season like several months after everyone else had digested it, and it was really bad. There's like a whole episode that's like a bunch of toy parodies, which isn't
Yeah,
a bad idea, but like the jokes weren't funny. They were just references. And I'm like, really? Is that what this show is now? References?
which
That's
is
not
kind of
cool.
sad. Uh,
I do remember like the Star Trek episodes were very reference heavy, but they were nested in the context of actual jokes.
yeah, they were funny. They're funny. I can forgive references if they're funny. That's the
Yeah.
golden rule. Uh, of any kind of comedy, I guess.
Even if you don't get the reference, it should still read as a pretty good joke.
God, I just for some reason I got that there's like a Family Guy gag that just popped in my head. I don't know what we talked about that triggered it, but it's
Oh,
him.
Andy Warhol.
Maybe something about watching stuff. I think on the channel or something, or maybe it was like I watched it illegally on YouTube. But it reminded me of a Family Guy where he's there and he's going to record Monday Night Football, and they're like, "Do you have the express written consent of the NFL and CNN?" And it's like just CNN. They shoot.
Oh, I got it wrong.
Oh,
It wasn't Andy Warhol. It was mention of Heat Vision and Jack, and then the fact that it was a Midnight Rider reference. Was
Knight
that the
Rider.
show? Knight
Yeah,
Rider. Yeah.
yeah. Then that's some wow. How have they not tried to make a Knight Rider movie yet? Because it feels like the kind of thing that they could totally like throw Andy Sandberg in.
Maybe
But
they didn't make enough money on the Green Hornet.
oh yeah, that ooh. And the Green Hornet's an interesting property because there are Green Hornet comics that are good.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't even hate that movie. It just was a really weird choice for Seth Rogen to cast himself in it. I
I
think
am
he was
glad
a
he did it
producer.
though. It gave him the bug to adapt everything that I like to film.
Oh, really? What else is he? Has he adapted that you were a fan of? I just don't keep
He
tons
did
of
the
track of his work.
Preacher TV series, like that was mostly from his backing.
Oh wow!
Um, and then we've had like probably a embarrassing deluge of Ninja Turtles media over the last several years, but the output from the Mutant Mayhem movie and the movie itself was from Seth Rogen, like saying, "I want this to be a thing."
Wow, that's dope. I did not know that. That is cool. Um, man, the Preacher Show. That's kind of a. I wouldn't call it a super deep cut, but if he was interested in adapting that, he's actually been inside a comic book store, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching an episode of the Drew Carey show and then seeing the characters like reading comic books, and it's like, whoa, okay, so they are also geeks.
Yeah.
Or like that famous quote of Samuel L. Jackson saying that he enjoys Kite, and it's like, whoa, You can't say that, man. Don't tell people you like that movie.
Have you had any chance to check out Agatha all along yet?
Yeah, I watched the most recent episode this morning. Did you see it yet?
I have. Oh my goodness, that episode. I did
Yeah,
not
that was crazy.
expect that character's episode to like steal the show, but that might be the best episode of the show, honestly. Um, yeah, I mean, I liked the whole show, but they really did weave her little tiny wimey falling through time. So for listeners, the context of it is one of the characters is like a clairvoyant, and then we find out that when her powers are like working or like acting up, she actually kind of skips through time. Kind of think of the movie The Arrival,
Yeah.
that kind of disjointed thing. But they do it really well in the episode. It wasn't. I didn't find it confusing. I thought it was.
The
Uh,
entire show is like really well written to a shocking degree because I remember watching like other Marvel shows where like, oh, there's a mystery and you won't believe what the twist is, but then there is no twist or it is just like out of nowhere nonsense. But like the trials and the character motivations and Agatha's Malfrond. That's my new meme. Every time I reference the show, I have to give it a name that is not its actual name because that was the press experience up to the release of the show. They kept changing the name of it.
mhm.
Very well written show, great characters. Like I remember when Billy first shows up in the first episode, I think I'm gonna hate this character, and then like the show almost like puts you in the perspective of like the older witches, like the fact that his name is just teenager is kind of like, oh yeah, that's the teenager. Blah, screw this guy. But very interesting character even up to this point. I am interested to learn more.
Yeah.
They pulled it off. I want to
I-
know about the teenager.
Yeah. And I remember even watching the first two episodes. Um at the very beginning, then they're kind of disguising it as a cop procedural for a bit. I
Yeah.
was like, this is really corny. This is on purpose, right? They're making this extra corny on purpose. And then it totally was. And I was so happy because I was a little worried, though, that would make it a hard sell for people. If they came in, saw it, and then kind of too early made a snap judgment on it. I was a
Yeah.
little concerned about that because but it really has turned out to be like the best like Disney Plus show they put out for Marvel um at this point. And like the
I hate
whole
to be that guy, but I think this is better than the Scarlet Witch show. Uh, this is a probably sacrilege to say. I know there's some people in our friend group that really liked that Scarlet Witch show. I didn't care for it. I thought that it's like film era experiment wasn't that cool. But I like the costume set pieces in Agatha, even though
Mhm.
it's not doing the same thing the Scarlet Witch show did. If they did do that, like the part when they're like in the 70s or whatever, if it was filmed like a 70s program, that would have made it so much better. But what the show has, I am into like a lot. Uh, Disney put Agatha on a Blu-ray. I will buy it. Where's the Agatha
100%.
Steelbook?
100%. I would too. It was really good. It helps that Aubrey Plaza is in it. I was worried that she would be too much of a bit character, but she actually is getting plenty of time to shine in several episodes, and she's set up to be the big bad for this last episode. So, yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride. They also said it is the gayest show in the MCU, and that's very true. It has mad gay energy. And from what I've heard from some of my lesbian friends, is it's very big in the gay community. They are enjoying it.
I kind of expected that. Like, every quote unquote witch that I know in real life, um, I see them on the screen, and they're all gay. So it's like, oh wow, uh,
Yeah, I didn't
they
realize.
they cinched it.
Yeah, I didn't realize witch stuff was so in, but apparently witch stuff's really in amongst the youth now.
Yeah, I've never been into it. I just know a lot of people in that space. It's semi goth adjacent, so they're out there if you go looking for them.
Yeah, witches they live among you. I thought it was really cute how they played with him doing with Teen doing his research online. That would be how it is nowadays, right? You would
Yeah,
find a wiki full of crazy people who are just making their own wiki with all this info. I always think about how weird, because you always think like, well, how could this exist and they would never know about it? And it's like, well, you know what?
it
The
would just like
wiki
be
exists.
someone's weird Tumblr archive blog or like a Twitter thread that got algorithmically suppressed. But if you're magic, you can find it.
Yeah, it would just be a weird it would just be there. It'd be some weird little place online like that. Some weird info. There's like there's a Kiwi Farms on in the Marvel universe where they're like just shitting on mutants or something. They're like harassing supposed witches or something. Like that has to exist. Or like some weird
There's also that like Reddit like offshoot, like they made their own Reddit, but it was to like A-log She-Hulk.
Oh man.
Like they were literally just like sitting in their threads plotting ideas to to like harass and defame her. And then like the guy that she brought home was also there. I remember now. That's terrifying.
Ugh.
Go on a date with a guy and he's like an active participant in a forum engineered for your demise.
That
Every
would
woman's
be
nightmare.
that would be 100% a nightmare. Um, oh, the crazy dude that they found off of, uh, which I know you want to call him crazy. I'd say traumatized actually, because he's really fucked up from that experience, which I think is interesting because you don't always get to see follow up from these stories, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, that would be a terrible experience, and like people would have issues from it, and it. I don't know. It's neat to see how the Marvel world exists after that.
Which I remember there was a popular TikTok of a guy going, what Marvel needs is a show about the people without the superpowers. Like, why aren't we following a garbage man in the Marvel universe? And it's like, no, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. But maybe they could, just as a treat. Don't credit that guy though. He was annoying. He pitched it wrong.
Fun fact: DC kind of did do this for one season, and then it
Oh
got canceled.
yeah, that one show with Danny Pudi in it.
Powerless. Yes. That was it was in the DC universe, and it was a very cute show. And as you said, Daniel Pudi was in it, and he's great.
Wasn't that show like airing alongside Supergirl?
It probably was. Let's see that show.
Also, like insane, there was a Supergirl show and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, and it crossed over with all the other big shows too. Even though I think it was on like there was some weirdness about it. Um, but yeah, it's 2016 to 2017. And yeah, one season. Oh, and it also had that other guy, Alan Tudyk,
Oh
who's
yeah.
also like huge in and that was Vanessa Hudgens. What? Wow, I didn't realize how many people that were recognizable were in that show. Um, man, Vanessa Hudgens, she really is just Christmas lady now, isn't she?
Must be a good gig. You don't have to work for the majority of the year, and then like probably in the middle of June, someone says, "Oh, we gotta do pre-filming for the Christmas thing."
Yeah, we got to do Christmas Switch 5,000 or whatever number they're on now. That okay, not Marvel. Netflix has like a weird princess cinematic universe that surrounds Christmas.
Oh my
They've got
gosh!
like some movies that involve like switching where like there's like lookalikes, but then it's in the same universe as this other movie that's about some fictional like Christmas aristocracy. I can't remember. It's like the Princess Switch, and then um, I'm forgetting what the other one's name, but it's like it's also about a Christmas and a princess. Uh, and then there's another one that's about a knight that gets like shot forward in time, but it's loosely connected because when you're in the past, you see a map and it has the fictional nations from this movie in it.
And all this somehow ties into Christmas.
Yeah, because it's really bizarre. Um, just I don't I love watching Christmas movies, especially like really bad ones. Um, around Christmas time, I remember many years I have watched like a Christmas movie a day just to like get the mood.
Yeah,
And Netflix has some of the worst that are being made. You
I
know, like
used to do that, but after Merry Friggin' Christmas, I had my fill. Um,
oh
which
my
I could
goodness.
probably get over it now, but at the time it was like one of the last things Robin Williams ever did, so it constantly left a sour taste in my mouth. Um, it was also like during I think one of the community off seasons, so like seeing Joel McHale playing a lesser Jeff was also not fun. But I guess that's just like his career now. Every role is like minor shades of Jeff.
It is it does seem like he has a bit of a kind of character type that he does a lot.
Yeah. It's like in this movie, he's nice Jeff. In this movie, he's dad Jeff. In this movie, he's dad Jeff, but he has dad problems. In this movie, he's horny Jeff.
Yeah. Um yeah, it's wild when you see actors like that you don't really expect to be in like a Christmas film.
Yeah.
Um I'm trying to find this one. I thought I was thinking of a movie that had Anna Kendrick in it, but I just ended up finding this different movie that it has her in it, but it also has Bill Hader, and it's not the one I'm thinking of.
Anna
Uh,
Kendrick does strike me as a person that would be in like at least a dozen Christmas movies. I don't know if that's true though.
I think she's in more than one. God, what's the name? I'm trying to remember the name of the guy from How I Met Your Mother. Who's Marshall? How I Met Your Mother, Marshall. I feel like he's in a movie with her that's actually pretty good, but it very much has vibes of that Merry Freaking Christmas movie. But I think I liked it more than that movie. Jason Segel. Yes. Let's see. Were these two in a movie together? Were they? Or am I thinking of a different white girl? I googled their names together and I didn't find a movie, so I don't know what movie I'm thinking of.
Oh, speaking of Christmas, do you remember when you had like developed a conscious awareness of the Mariah Carey Christmas song saturation?
Uh, Several years ago, because and only because I saw a video that Adam Ragusa made about how he had a semi-embarrassing kerfuffle uh, when he did an interview on a news segment some years back, and the internet doesn't let him live it down.
Oh, I think I remember seeing that, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's a really good video. Because he is an internet cooking guy,
Yeah.
but what part of his backstory is when he was younger, he also went to like a school for the arts and was very into music and was going to go to college for music, but did not. He did go to college for that. He went there, and I think stuff didn't pan out, didn't happen, and then he ended up kind of going more into like journalism stuff, and then from there kind of eventually started doing the YouTube stuff, which kind of took over. He got like surprise successful with it. Because he like started the channel, I think almost like kind of learning how to do the home setup, and I think like maybe there was always an assumption that he might make different content eventually, but it just ended up being like what he really liked doing and what he was really good at doing and could see himself doing for a long time. But I could be mixing him up with now that I'm thinking about it. I've seen so many chubby emu who like started YouTube kind of accidentally as well. Or he had made a channel at first to learn how to do it and then it kind of blew up. But yeah, really funny food guy and his story about Mariah Carey. But that's when I realized, because I just never paid attention to Christmas music so much outside of kind of liking old-ish Christmas music, because
Okay.
it just has like a vibe to it. And I learned later that that's because a lot of what you think of as traditional Christmas music is like jazz music or has jazz roots. So you just get to hear chord progressions and stuff that you don't hear all the time, which makes it feel kind of novel.
I see. Right.
But
I was curious because apparently it's been a thing since like the 90s. Like she is like the Christmas lady, and every few years since like 1994 they had kept trying to like make that a thing. Like even in the early 2000s there was a Mariah Carey Christmas Carol or something like that where she was like Ebenezer Scrooge, if Ebenezer Scrooge was like a music quote unquote diva. um, but it's only like very recently that it's become her whole thing. Like that's almost all she does, or at least that's what's more widely known about her public persona or like public presence as a performer. And so I'm
yeah,
always interested in like learning when people picked up on that because they have been pushing it for as long as I've been alive. Whoever her
yeah.
people are.
I mean, it. There's a weird crossover too of like so many celebrities. Celebrities and doing Christmas tracks is a big thing too.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I see it parodied and stuff. Like they make fun of that in 30 Rock. They have I forget his name. Uh what's his name? The one, he's like a celebrity in that show. And they recruit him because he's a celebrity. And I'm
Oh,
just gonna look it
Tracy
up.
Jordan.
Tracy Jordan, yes. I remember they have a bit where he does a Christmas album as a gag,
Yeah.
and it's really funny. But I didn't realize how like many celebrities actually legitimately put out Christmas albums where they just sing a bunch of Christmas songs.
It's a big industry. I just wish that they would do it for Halloween. That's the one I care about.
Right? There's not enough good Halloween music. one band I like to vibe to around Halloween time. It's Creature Feature. They are I mean, man, wow, old now, but they've got a whole like goth October-y kind of vibe to them. All their songs are little like Buried Alive is about being buried alive. There's a song about killing zombies. There's a song about all the terrible things that happen in this town. A song about a guy that's basically like a serial killer
Well, that's
singing
a
about
pretty
his life.
big discography.
Yeah, it's a lot of I don't know how many. I think they might only. I don't know how many like albums they ever put out, but
I pulled up their Bandcamp, which wow, a Bandcamp in the current year, amazing. But there's
whoa!
13 albums here.
I did not know these. The last one I knew about was The Greatest Show on Earth. So I did not realize that I had years of a creature feature goodness here. It's because it's on a Bandcamp. That's why. Oh man.
Pretty exciting. I had a
Yeah.
similar situation with the band Ghost. I'm like, oh yeah, Ghost. I loved the first album. Turns out they've been putting out albums for years, and I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, fine stuff catches me off guard like that too. I'm not super plugged into music scenes, I don't follow tons of music news. I don't.
It's very hard because, like, if it isn't drama, most of like the media stuff that you're getting are like, oh, they're doing a concert in a city that isn't yours. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not going to travel cross country to attend, but good for the people who do.
that's
like,
always been a thing for me is like until recently I've never lived near a place where like big bands go. So I've never been to like big concerts without going very out of the way.
I think recently a good example of that dichotomy is one of the guys from Gang Fight. Do you know about Gang Fight? The internet art collective.
Yes, I have heard of Gang Fight. I believe from the main character syndrome actually.
Yeah, very interesting set of episodes those were. But yeah, one of the guys from Gang Fight messages me and says, "Have you heard the latest JPEG Mafia?" And I'm like, "There's another one? I had no idea." Because I don't follow those guys like on their social media or anything. So it's almost like I would never know when there's new music for anything if it wasn't for other people knowing that I listen to certain bands or like performers. Like more recently there was a new Tyler the Creator album that came out, and I would not know that except for the fact that our mutual friend Cheesy is a big Tyler head. So of course he knows. And because he knows, now I know. But I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I'm with music. I'm like that a lot too. I'm hearing it from other people, or the one time Spotify isn't bad and tells me that a new song has come out. Although I feel like I always find music really late. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm always finding music from 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, this is my jam.
I'm kind of that way with television. Like stuff that I've never seen before, maybe I'll check out and I'll think, wow, how have I not been watching this the whole time? Like I started The Simpsons just this year. I'd only ever seen maybe like 2 episodes of The Simpsons in my entire life. And watching through the show now, it's very good, like shockingly good.
Yeah, man, early early. Not. I don't even want to put a caveat on it too much, but because I know like, you know, I don't know. There's some. It's like a type of person that's always like, oh, early whatever's the real stuff, you know, like.
Yeah,
It's not always true. A lot of times people are being hipsters about it, but I mean with
like
Simpsons,
people with Adventure Time get very whingy about those later seasons. They think Adventure Time was only good in the first season. It's like, what? No, a lot of those were like the worst episodes.
yeah. Uh, but for Simpsons, those early seasons have a lot of heart to them, a lot of really good character beats, and just really funny writing. And I don't know, they do just hit different because also they're just like from another time.
Yeah,
Simpsons has been going so long that even take aside the writing quality, just the world around it has changed, and that necessarily has changed the show a bit. And there's like a time capsule of an era that early Simpsons captures where they weren't just like making fun of sitcoms. They were, but they were also kind of improving on sitcom tropes a bit.
yeah.
And now they kind of become what they made fun of in a way.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far. I've been told by several people different stopping points of like when the quality starts going down. So if I at any point start to feel like, oh, this isn't very good at all, that's when I should just stop watching. But yeah, hearing people talk about new Simpsons makes me think, oh, that doesn't sound anything like what I've been watching at all. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I hear nowadays. Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell because you never know who you're hearing it from. But I hear
Yeah.
more positive things about recent seasons. But I also hear that don't let them hype it up too much because it's still only just so good. There are some things that I feel like they've always kind of been good at. I always love the Treehouse of Horror episodes. Those are always fun, even in the quote unquote bad seasons. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, the Treehouse of Horror anthology ones are always very, very fun.
Wasn't the Death Note thing a Treehouse of Horror segment?
They've definitely done a Death Note Treehouse of Horror.
Okay.
Uh, they did a Parasite Treehouse of Horror.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't know. I watched Parasite because of that, mostly because I had not seen much about it, and so I just hadn't gotten around to it. And by happenstance, because I watched that Treehouse of Horror, I found out that that was like basically the plot of the movie, and I was like, oh shit, I got to go watch this movie. And then the movie was great. um, One thing that I never got into, although they did have them around when I was a kid, but I never got into the Simpson comics.
I have read a few of the comics. They are definitely comics. I can't speak to their quality because there isn't really anything that I could like measure them against, but
Hmm.
I enjoyed myself enough to hold on to what I have. And if any more fell into my lap, I would eagerly read them.
Yeah, they're the kind of thing that I wouldn't go out and try to buy a collection of. But
Yeah,
like if I was at a comic shop and they had like just a bunch of comics that were like old and kind of cheap, I
like
would
a
pick
real
up
life
some of
comic book
those.
guy is like, oh boy, here is a easy mark. Hey there, you look like a kind of guy that would love to read a Simpsons comic. Well, it's your lucky day. I will sell you 500 Simpsons comics for $5 because maybe to him the value is like that low. But to me, that sounds like a great deal. Hell yeah.
there
$5 sold.
there are legit comics like that that have that kind of level of value. Um, they'll have like quarter bins at
Yeah, I love
big
those.
conventions. And like I know when some of the third publishers were coming out, or like other publishers are coming out in the 90s, printing tons of number ones. You could get like tons of like Malibu comic or Valiant comic number ones, or like there's like a billion Spawn number ones and Youngblood number ones out there. So many that because they're selling so many copies, there's a bubble. People are buying them, assuming that one day they'd be worth something. So now there's just so many that like it is like that price wise.
Yeah, I love getting like a whole trade for 50 cents. Like, it's insane when it happens, but I'm no fool. That's a whole damn book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I've been liking about I've been reading these Valiant Origin collections that are like kind of a lot of the stories following the Valiant after the 2012 reboot. And like
Yeah.
these books, it's like an $18 book, but there's 17 comics in there. You're paying like $1 a comic, which is like a pretty fucking good value for like a hefty, thick trade.
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like.
crazy.
Yeah, speaking of comic book characters, in Malcolm in the Middle, there's a really, really funny episode where Hal is trying to buy a comic book for one of his kids' birthdays. So he has to get like they have this nerdy neighbor person who helps him do it. But they're going in there and they're about to sell the dad on like a terrible comic book, and then he comes in and he's like, "Stop right there." And they have like a little nerd fight. This kind of dorky, fatter, almost comic book guy and the person at the store. And it's just really good. Malcolm in the Middle is such a fucking funny show.
That may be another one of those shows that I will eventually get around to because everyone that likes it says that it's really good. One person described it to me as like a live action cartoon, which I always love to hear.
Yeah, 100%. And they also were one of the early adopters of doing it with a single camera instead of like a multicam setup. So
Oh, yeah.
they do a lot of visual gags with that. A lot of stuff where like I can remember really specifically like some shots where like the lights come off and everything fades away and the camera zooms in on the dad and like he says something really dramatic. And the like he's being I think it's from when he's gonna teach the kids how to skate. He's really weird about teaching his kids how to skate. It's like all of the brothers are like traumatized by it a little bit. They're like, listen, just do the lessons and get it over with, okay? And they won't tell Malcolm about it. And then it turns out it's because like the dad was a really good disco skater and insists that they learn how to skate like properly like that.
Like they used to in the disco.
Yes, but like
Hashtag
it's
weird parent things.
it's very good. You do have to get through that first season though, when Frankie Muniz is the youngest, because it is I don't know. I don't like young Frankie Muniz that much. It's not necessarily written poorly, but
His
just I
acting
don't
isn't
like
like
it.
fully there yet. It's kind of like watching any child in a situation comedy like the Olsen twins in Full House or Raven Simone as whoever that little girl was in the Cosby Show.
Yep. I remember Rudy. She was Rudy, I think.
Rudy, yeah.
And I remember Cosby Show. I watched a lot of Cosby Show growing up. It was on Nick at Night.
Not a bad show, but very strange in the context of Mr. Cosby's career, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of strange decisions being made.
Odd. It's one of those things that's odd to look back on now. So weird to think he was had such a wholesome image once upon a time.
I kind of feel like we all gleaned a bit of it in those scenes where he's like doing that weird couple flirty thing with a Mrs. Huxtable, and it's like, why is there so much focus on her feet? What's going on there? Or maybe that's
Yeah,
just like an old person thing.
maybe, maybe. Um, to segue or to shift gears a little bit.
Yep,
I
everyone listening, stop thinking about Cosby Show
yeah,
right now.
Cosby. We're going to talk about uh 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 God, I'm not going to be able to segue this. I saw Venom: The Last Dance yesterday. And I kind of got to rant a little bit about this.
Oh yeah,
Um
I haven't seen it yet. I have a nice cam rip waiting for me because that's how I choose to watch those movies in as shitty quality as possible.
well, I'll tell you what, you're really not going to miss out on a lot there because this movie was a writer's strike movie and
Oh
it
no.
shows. Yes. You can just tell that they rushed to get a script done and this movie technically in production before the writer strike and actor strikes took full effect, because not that it's like bad, but there's definitely stuff that like doesn't make sense in the
Mm,
context of any the movie, there's not like a lot of places that it goes. Like it picks up right at the end of the other one.
okay.
And then like basically immediately they know that they're being hunted by this god knoll. They establish the fact that the person hunting them can only see them if they go into their full demon, or not demon, full venom mode.
Yeah.
Um, in most of the movie is them being like, we got to get to someplace for some reason. It's not even clear what the goal is. They want to go to New York, but also they just don't want to get found by this thing hunting them. They end up in Vegas, and then in Area 51. None of what they do in Vegas makes sense. Like, not even like in a way that it's like a bad plot. It's like there's no plot. Like
Do you think
it
like the
just.
script just said, and then they go to Vegas, and then the director had to like just make something up?
I mean, maybe because they go to Vegas.
Listen, pal, union rules say they have to go to Vegas. You know, because of the strike, we can't change it. So you got to film a Vegas Vegas scene.
And also, we're not allowed to write jokes. You cannot write a joke. The actors are allowed to improv, but no one can write anything.
Damn.
But yeah, they go to Vegas, and then they reveal themselves, and immediately the thing that hunts them, if they show themselves, hunts them. The reason they reveal themselves is because they are dancing. I am not joking. They do a dance scene. There's a number there with Miss Chin from the group from the market, who is
Yeah.
in Vegas for reasons too. I don't know. I stepped out of the theater to use the restroom at this part, and then I came back, and they were dancing full Venom style, and then predictably the bad thing came, and then the U.S. government came, and then they were in uh, Area 51. And they get picked up by this hippie family who's also going to Area 51, and they're the ones that like take him to Vegas. From which where they go to Area 51 and meet the hippie family again, because they were also going to Area 51. I don't know why they didn't just find a reason for him to want to go to Area 51 and leave him with that family the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it's really weird that they had this whole tearful goodbye with the family, and then they show up at the end because the family wants to see an alien. The plot of the part of the movie is that Area 51 is being decommissioned.
Oh.
Um, yeah, but really what's happening is under Area 51 underground, they've got super secret Area 51. They don't name it, but that's what it is. But the cover story is that the Area 51 above ground is going away, and that's why this hippie family decided to go there. He has like quit his job and cashed out his savings, and they've got a van, and they're driving the alien highway to go to Area 51, and they pick up Venom for reasons. And then at the end, they're like, "Oh, aliens aren't real," but then they actually see aliens, and then it's like, "Oh, wow." It's this movie's really weird. I'm telling you, it like doesn't make much sense. It's funny. There's lots of moments where I laughed because like the voice acting for Venom is very funny and the lines they have him say are very funny.
Right.
But like none of the story makes sense. It's such a waste. Like and it doesn't, and like the conflict doesn't even make sense because the idea is they have this thing called a codex, which is from the comics. And in the comics, the way it worked was anyone who had ever bonded with a symbiote had part of a codex in them, and they needed to. The bad guy was going around, in the comics, in this case, it was Carnage, but it could have been anyone, was going around and collecting them, and once they had the full one, that was going to free Noel. But in this movie, the codex is created because Venom brought Eddie back to life in the second movie, I guess, and that makes a codex. And the codex only exists so long as one of them, as they both are still alive. So if Venom died or Eddie died, then the codex goes away, and the bad guy who's going to destroy the entire universe won't come out. So right away, there's a really easy solution here, which is kill Eddie, because Eddie's really squishy and easy to kill.
Right.
And no one, even like the government, is ostensibly interested in that, but they don't ever do it. They don't succeed at it. The other symbiotes, of which there are other symbiotes, which is also weird because I'm pretty sure in the first movie that it was like hinted at that like the other symbiotes were bad and wanted to invade Earth.
Yeah.
But this movie, it's retconned to have more of the like comic lore where like the symbiotes trapped their god and now they're just running away and hiding. So they did kind of change it a bit. But once they get the other symbiotes out, because they're all being stored at Area 51, because also there's like a scientist character who gets a lot of screen time. He's played by the actress that plays Keely from Ted Lasso, which I wonder if, because you know, Danny from Ted Lasso is that bartender guy who's in the movie for like 2 minutes, but he was also at the end of Venom 2 when he was talking to him. I wonder if like that connection had anything to do with it, because it's really weird. But anyway,
it happens a lot. Like there's a show I've been watching called Industry, and there are two characters in that show that appear in Joker 2, and it's the same scene. So I wonder if like they hired one guy and the other guy was like, "Hey, you got to bring my buddy."
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it, because it seems like it happens a lot. But yeah, she has a character that has a baffling character because she doesn't do anything in the movie. She ostensibly has some motivation that like her brother died but wanted to study aliens one day, so now she studies aliens, and that's why she's at Area 51 studying aliens. That's about all we know about her, and that's all she does. There's another scientist who exists so that the military guy can call her weird for wearing a Christmas pin that her mother made for her year-round.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her biggest contribution to the movie. Anyway, they free the symbiotes, and then the symbiotes have no interest in killing Eddie. They know that the Codex exists. They know the rules around the Codex. They know who they'd have to kill. They're trying to fight the thing that's hunting them, but they're all incapable of doing it. And also, these things, more of them come. It's so like it just doesn't make sense why anything is still happening, because like Eddie could just die. And at the end, you know, they have to do the little sacrificial bit or whatever. Because you know Venom has to quote unquote die. I don't know why they didn't kill Eddie off instead, because Tom Hardy's done with the role. But I also know that Venom's probably not actually dead, because there's like probably a sample of him someplace that didn't get answered. You know, he's never gonna actually be dead. He's gonna come back somehow. But then at the end of the movie, there's an after credits scene And Noel's like, "Ha, I'm free anyway." And it's like, what? What happened with this movie? Like, I don't get. Nothing makes sense. I don't know. It was wild. Baffling movie. Somehow managed to be, I would say, the worst of the trilogy. Because
Damn.
I know Venom 2 is a shorter movie, and is a bit tighter and at least is kind of fun and is funny.
Yeah.
And the first one has lots of wild, wacky shit in it and is funny. And this one, I mean, there's wild, wacky shit, but the other movies, I don't know, they both made more sense. And the plots, like, made sense. I don't know. The characters had a motivation, even if it was one dimensional, you know?
I hope Sony doesn't get cold feet from this movie being hot garbage. Like, it hasn't stopped them before, and I'm enjoying this series of spite films.
It is fight films. I am Craven. And what's
Oh
weird
yeah,
is,
that's actually happening, right?
yeah, Craven's happening in December.
Oh shit.
I saw people tweeting out from Comic-Con where they showed like 7 minutes of early footage of it or something, and they were like, they were kind of talking up the fact that it had competent action sequences that were R-rated and good. And I think
Interesting.
the Craven movie actually is R-rated. Craven movie rating. Yeah, it actually has an R rating. So, maybe it will be good. We'll see. Um, they've
It's
not.
very baffling. Like, what is their goal with these movies exactly? Like, is it just here's the world without Spider-Man? Oh, Spider-Man's presence is entirely worthless.
Yeah, it is baffling. And then they want to tie it to the MCU, but they don't know how. So they do those baffling cameos with Vulture and
Oh
Jared
yeah, that was
Leto.
weird. I hated that. I think it has something to do with Spider-Man. What?
Yeah,
No, don't
what?
say that.
Oh, what a line!
And
It
then Morbius
hurts.
like very accurately responds, "What?"
Oh man, and then I was there one after Madam Web. I can't remember, but I feel like there should have been if there wasn't. Man, Madam Web, that was another one that was. I went to see that one in theaters, and I was kind of glad I did because it was at least very fun to be confused by.
Like the effect is enhanced by watching it in like a group setting.
Yeah, that's how I felt. There was something I don't know, there's just something about it, going in knowing that it was going to be like bad, and then seeing it be like that, and then there's nothing to excuse it. I guess you're seeing it the best way you could ever see it. You like,
Yeah.
you're getting the full movie experience, and it was still uh like uh it's so funny too because like there's so many scenes in that movie that are ADR'd, and like it's really obvious, and like they didn't care, and you can tell that there's shots that are like reshots because they take place like with two or one character on screen, and the other person they're talking to never shows their face to the camera or never
Oh my
shows at all.
gosh.
And like, yeah, that was yeah, that was the Sony universe is struggling. It's struggling. I kind of hope well, I don't know. I don't know if I really hope they sell it back. I hope they stop and wait and like, I don't know. Give it to someone with some creative juices and let them make something.
Yeah,
Cuz
surely there's like another Sam Raimi out there that will just like do Spider-Man, but like their version of it.
mhm.
Like those movies being so chock full of like his particular directing like I guess, directorial voice is very cool. Like, you couldn't recreate those movies even if you tried, which I hope no one has tried.
Yeah, he's got a real touch that works for comic booky movies. Even Multiverse of Madness, which a lot of people didn't like, had a lot of his like Raimiisms in it. Like, like little montage scenes, or just like really, because one thing he's really good at when he does his montage scenes is kind of having them be cut over really interestingly.
Yeah.
And there's like some of that in there, and just even if the plot wasn't really worked out, the actual shots and like storytelling from that perspective always felt solid, and I really enjoyed it. Even like aside from like the little cameos and stuff, I think people are disappointed in that movie for not being like more wild and multiversy.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is why I kind of want Sony to continue to do whatever it is they're doing and just maybe try harder,
mhm.
because if they can like cinch the whole like Spider-Man cinematic universe thing and make it good, it'll be something for people to point to and like be more readily, I guess, eager to like push back against some of the flaws in like the Marvel stuff. Like, imagine if Craven was just like the best thing ever, and then you could like point to Secret Invasion and be like, "Why didn't you do that? What the heck,
Yeah.
Disney?"
So we need someone else to make some good superhero movies, so that we can hold Disney to a higher standard.
Yeah,
Hopefully Gunn does that. I would like to see James Gunn's Superman movie do that.
it looks interesting. Like, I think Mr. Terrific is going to be in it, and then there was like that promo image with like crypto. I was like, "Whoa, they can just put those characters in a movie? Oh, boy, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I have a lot of faith.
Like, I
Not
hope it's
the
not an origin story. Like, that'll immediately elevate it in my eyes, at least. I'm so sick of superhero origin stories.
yeah, everything about it just makes me think it's not. Um, I don't want to get. I try not to get too hyped about any kind of corporate art piece anymore.
Yeah,
But
it's very much a curb your enthusiasm market.
hmm but I do think if there's someone out there who I think can like give it the touch it needs to get DC out of their funk, it's probably James Gunn. Because
Yeah,
he's
because
already proven it with the Suicide Squad sequel and the Peacemaker show.
and even before that, he hadn't really had like very many duds. Like, most of his other stuff was like really good. He was on a hot streak.
hmm
And then there'll be like one guy with like the really obscure James Gunn reference that will tell me how wrong I am. I'm sure.
And I saw this really funny meme the other day. It was something about like directors who like it was something about like directors who are really good at making good movies and also respecting source material for comic book movies. And it's like it's got Sam Raimi there and it's got James Gunn, and then they put Zack Snyder right next to it in the comments. I think it was bait because every comment was like, "You really tried to slip Zack Snyder in there, didn't you?" Um, oh yeah. Um, you know,
Although his Watchmen movie was pretty okay. I remember it being good.
yeah, I enjoy the Watchmen movie. I think he definitely misses some of the point of Watchmen. Like I think
Oh
he
yeah.
glorifies the violence of it a bit too much, because like I get the vibe that the violence in it isn't supposed to be cool.
Yeah.
And he made it badass. Uh, so like that's my big criticism. But aside from that, he very it looks good. I'm not bored watching it. you can feel however you want to feel about changing it from a big squid monster to a bomb. That didn't offend me personally.
It's very comic booky, so my suspension of disbelief was, I guess, what's the term? Accommodated?
Yeah, he
Perfectly
really
swaddled in his bosom?
he nailed the visual of it. Um, like those character designs, he really translated them to film really well. And I do think that the Mars scene he did with Manhattan, I think he nailed that. I think he sold the vibe that I get from reading that issue of the comic.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember the scene that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm. Where he's like jumping through time,
Yeah.
almost like Agatha all along.
I
But
wonder if that was like a reference. Probably not.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was jumbling around in people's heads there. Um, but I think yeah, DC, they really have some stuff going for them right now. Like the Batman stuff is looking good, even though their Joker bombed horribly. But I am excited for James Gunn to give us something that isn't just edgelord Batman. Um, because like I like the Pattinson Batman, but I am interested in seeing goofy, lighthearted MCU-ified ish Batman too. Not really
Yeah.
MCU-ified, but like kind of more tonally different. Just because we've had like how many of these Batman now? We got three
Too
Dark
many.
Knights. Yeah, yeah, too many. Um,
What I would
kind of
like to see
really,
is like a bit of a shakeup in their animated feature section. They for the longest time have had this whole like house style thing going, but then it's been revealed, oh no, that was intentional. These are all the same cinematic universe. Or so I believed, because then the Mortal Kombat movies also came out and they're the same art style as those like Justice League movies. And so it's like, you know, fool me once. But now
I
that I know that they're just like following a format, I want to see something new, something different, in a different art style at least.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not a big fan of I think I don't know what the official designation of it is, but
I have
I've
no
heard it
idea
called
like
the
what to call it.
Tomorrowverse.
Yeah.
And I
Like
hear it called
everything's
the
blocky, constant like drop shadow on characters when they're like in frame.
yeah. I think it's the Tomorrowverse because it started with um the Superman Man of Tomorrow movie.
Yeah.
And it has ended now with Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3, which I watched all three parts of that cartoon movie. And, uh, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't unfaithful in like the overall plot of Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it was also three different movies and it felt slow. I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't love all those animated movies. Gunn is they are he is like overseeing the animated stuff too. The
Oh
first
yeah,
yeah,
Creature Commandos.
it's the first one coming out, and it looks like it has some sauce. And also it's characters that are completely different. DC's Frankenstein, come on, let's go.
Yeah. Which it's very interesting to see people more willing to utilize Frankenstein characters in media. I guess there was like a moratorium on that for the longest time because of Universal, but now it's like everyone has free reign.
I didn't realize that, but it is true. Now that you say it, I can look back and see the gap.
Yeah.
But yeah, tangentially related to DC. This is kind of like the last big thing that I know I wanted to hit this week. Absolute Wonder Woman came out the last week.
Oh, it's
DC's
finally out. Holy shit.
yes, the first issue, Kelly Thompson writing it. It's the second of the Absolute line to come out. And I am way more hyped for this book than I am for Absolute Batman. Because for as good as Scott Snyder is on Batman, Absolute Batman feels like another Batman. I don't know tons about Wonder
Yeah.
Woman, so this is just on even from there. It's kind of a more interesting take. But this is a Wonder Woman who is like raised in hell. Not totally like a Diablo kind of fiery hell. It's more like a closer to like a kind of Greek island-ish, like kind of Greekish hell is like a place kind of. She's on an island alone being raised, and they kind of show the backstory on it. It's like the plot here is she's not raised among the Amazons. The Amazons piss Zeus off somehow. We don't know. And I guess he's gonna kill them all or punish them all or do something with them. We don't really know. All we know is that Apollo shows up in hell and is like, watch this child because we're punishing her. Bye. She's the last of the Amazons. That's all we know. And then the person who's watching her isn't even gonna raise her. She's gonna like just let her die. But then the snake comes up to eat her, and she's like, "Oh, it looks like I won't have to wait that long." But then baby Wonder Woman's really strong and like yeets the snake away. And then she's like, "Oh, well, that's kind of cute. Okay." So then she raises her, and all this stuff happens. We really don't know what's going on because yet. But she is like on Earth and she's fighting some kind of demonic invasion in the current time. And it is badass. She's riding a fucking skeleton horse. She's got like this sick ass berserk armor for part of it. She has a huge sword. I don't know. It's very cool. The combat scenes are really well done. And it had a lot of cute moments. A lot of really good, like, fun, cute panels that I just really liked. It was good. I'm way more hyped for this than I am for the Absolute Batman book. Kelly Thompson's really good. So
yeah, everything I've read from them has been like consistently very character focused, but also like I don't want to say plays lip service, but like touches different like parts of like the wider world around characters and tends to have a influence because they're just like a wellspring of great ideas. Never read a Kelly Thompson book that wasn't good, at least in Marvel. I love all of their Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I've liked the Marvel stuff I've read of them. I read one of their more recent creator-owned books, The Calling, which was cool. The art on that book's fantastic. But the story's good too. It kind of follows these kids. They go to film a movie on this island that they can only get to by going over to the low tide. So they walk out there and they end up finding this cave and they get stuck, or not stuck. They find a portal to like another dimension or like some other place, and they go through it because one of them has a sibling that went missing around this area some time ago, and when they see it, they feel compelled to go do it, and a bunch of stuff happens from there. But it was really good. It did end on kind of a cliffhanger, so I'm hoping they come back to it at some point down the road. A lot of creator-owned books will tend to do that. They'll put out like a volume of the creator-owned thing and then go do a bunch of like big 2 work and then come back and do a volume. So that was pretty good. But yeah, don't have too much to say about that because it's still on its first issue.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just excited. The whole, a lot of the Absolute stuff that they've revealed is looking interesting to me. Like the the designs that they released for Absolute Martian Manhunter looked really interesting. I don't know what's going on plot wise, but it's written by Deniz Camp, and
Ooh.
he's really good. So I have total faith in it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not big on the whole like, oh, it's the DC version of the Ultimate Universe. Like, let it be its own thing, but also it's looking good.
yeah. And the fun fact is, they had been pitching this. Scott Snyder specifically had been pitching this for like a year or two before Marvel did their revamp of the Ultimate line.
Mm.
He was talking in Comic Tropes had him in an interview. He did like a few interviews around that time. I think he did an interview at Comic Pop and Casually Comics and Comic Tropes. And in one of those, he had mentioned that. And he's like not mad about it because that's just how it is sometimes. But he is
Yeah.
like a little frustrated because it makes it look like we just aped them, but we didn't.
If they had greenlit it when he had the idea, then it would have been a real roles reverse situation. Everyone would be like, "Hey, have you read Absolute Black Panther? Oops, I mean Ultimate Black Panther."
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny is I hear fans like the other day, last week I was at the comic shop and I heard someone call it Ultimate Batman. Whew.
I'm very eager to dig in. I think what I'm going to start doing is whenever I have a drought in the Marvel books that I'm following, I'm going to pick up a Absolute book.
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it. Um, oh man, I also I've been reading this Conan omnibus that I got, Savage Sword of Conan omnibus.
Ooh.
Uh, yeah, and this is some of the it's like the earliest Conan work they're really doing at Marvel. It's Roy Thomas is writing it, adapting a lot of the early E. Howard stories, and Barry Windsor Smith is doing the art. And I am, I'm working on a comic right now that features kind of a barbarianish character, not really like Conan at all, personality wise, but
Yeah.
aesthetically, it's very inspired by that kind of character aesthetic. So I am studying these pages as I'm reading and just looking at shot compositions and how good his artwork is. I mean, I've been really diving down fantasy art lately too, fantasy and sci-fi art, but I find there's a lot of overlap too. Especially like I have this big book of Frank Frazetta art that I have been going through. Um, and I like to study look at his like anatomy and stuff. I don't do as much full painting, so I don't reference it as much. Although I want to get more into doing like full painted work in digitally. Like I don't want to fuck around with like doing oil paints and stuff, but I do want to get more
Yeah.
into doing that kind of painterly vibe because I love it. It's just so much time investment on a single piece.
It's very
But
fun to like get all of the pieces to fit together though.
uh,
But yeah, it does take forever.
yeah, but it has been great because Barry Windsor Smith, there's a lot of Frank Frazetta influence in his work as well. You can see it in the posing and the like kind of the way he frames stuff. And I don't know, it's just been really good, really fun to read through that, even though it's not like current. Although the current Conan stuff they're doing is actually insane too. There's a oh, this is funny. This writer Jim's of Zach Comic Con, and he tweeted this out. There's another writer named Zeb Wells who writes Spider-Man. His run's ending right now. People really don't like it. So it happened to
That's the
Jim's
guy with the character what is his name? Steve?
Paul. Paul.
Paul.
Yes.
The end
Paul.
of Paul.
Yep. Well, Paul is still around, actually.
Oh damn.
Zeb Wells' run is ending, and Paul is still with Mary Jade, and she's off being her own superhero jackpot.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. With the
What a
tower.
tacky name. I would not have done that.
Yeah, it's so it fits into like her backstory, but it's also like so because her powers are like, oh, you get a random power. So when you get a good one, you can say jackpot, but also you hit the jackpot, Tiger. It
Yeah.
hurts. It hurts. It hurts. I don't like it.
It's kind of
Um,
like that level of anime creative incest where it's like, please do anything else.
I literally just wish she had spider powers at this point. It would be
Yeah.
less bad because also like if you want to have a thing where like your power is it can be literally anything, then you have to be clever. And you're not you're not clever enough for that. There's like
Yeah.
even a similar character around right now that I like more, even though like the book they're in isn't really that great, called Hallows Eve. And her power is she has like because her power is limbo magic from Limbo, uh, which is like a whole place in Marvel lore. So that means it's like random and weird. So she pulls out a mask and she puts the mask on and it gives her a power. And it could be like a Frankenstein mask or like a mummy mask or like a yellow jacket mask. So like she gets like the shrinky powers or whatever. So it could be anything. Um, and so that's really funny. And the writing on it's it's a lot more entertaining and it feels like there's a lot more natural constraints with it, and it feels less boring than oh I rolled the dice, oh I have super strength, pow I hit you hard. Okay, that I don't know that doesn't feel as interesting. Um, yeah, Limbo is one of my favorite Marvel places because it whenever it shows up, fun stuff happens. It's the place that turned magic from being a 7-year-old girl into being a 15-year-old girl in one panel, but then
Yeah.
also gave her a 4-issue miniseries that's like one of the best comics Marvel's ever made. So like Limbo's great. And it even got used in the most recent Al Ewing Venom run that like is kind of having this big arc in because it's all timey-wimey. Because this Venom run has a lot to do with time travel. Like,
Yeah. But it's like
and
a
it,
weird time travel where initially he was doing time travel, but now it's like he's moving through the DNA of the symbiote's influence over the universe.
yeah,
And it's
it's
very
wild.
abrupt. It's like, hang on, that's not time travel. And then they decide to explain what's happening.
And then there's like characters that are Eddie Brock at different points in the story.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a mind fuck. That was so good. I honestly, once it's all wrapped up, I'm gonna go back through and like read it again.
I
But
want to
like,
go back and reread it just to like get a better idea of like what was going on with Kang because his dynamic with Kang was really interesting.
yeah,
Uh, I
um,
guess like there's a part in the plot where they aren't enemies, and maybe I accidentally skipped that. um,
well, there's a little bit where they're helping each other, and it doesn't really make sense why. But then like it gets tied up a bit later. But it also turns out that King and Doctor Doom are having a proxy war through Eddie.
oh
Um,
yeah,
and they're gonna maybe tie that off. There's one more tie-in coming out as a part of Venom War that is dealing with the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, and I is supposed to expand on what the hell the whole King Doctor Doom stuff is about. But yeah,
I hope
both
they
of
do
them.
because that was the most interesting part of that.
Yeah, it was that was yeah. It's been a wild ride for Vita, but Al Ewing is just a really good writer too. Immortal Hulk is really good.
Yeah.
Immortal Thor has been really good. I think he did X-Men Red. That was really good.
I
So
keep
yeah,
forgetting to read X-Men Red.
it it's definitely better if you are kind of invested. Well, you know what? Actually, since it all takes place on Mars, it totally works on its own. But yeah, it's really good. I'm so mad that they haven't touched like Mars right now. They could totally be making a book of Krakoa or like of Araco on Mars,
Yeah.
and they aren't. And I don't know. I need to write the X office a letter and complain. Like, Tom Brevoort, you piece of shit. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We don't hate people like that here.
Try not to. At least not when it comes to like people working creatively in the industry.
Mhm.
Like I might feel that way about people like Steve Bannon, but
Yeah.
that's his problem.
Yeah, bad people that are actually hurting people and not just writing silly stories.
Yeah.
Oh, but this reminds me. This is to go back the whole. So Jim Zub is at the comic convention, and a Spider-Man cosplayer comes up and is like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And it's like, "Okay, yeah, we'll do a selfie." And then he's walking away. He's like, "Your Spider-Man sucks." And he's like, "I'm Jim Zub, not Zeb Wells." And he's like, "Sorry." Like, what
Oh
was
my
the?
god.
Wow, it's like why? Like that's one. It's so cringe that you do that to
That
like.
is cringe.
I feel so bad for Jim Zub, who has never written a Spider-Man book, as far as I can tell. Just getting hated on. But he is the reason I was bringing him up is because he's doing a lot of fun stuff with Conan over at Titan Comics right now. He's got a little Conan run that he's doing, and it's really good. And he also has like a big magazine format book that is like all black and white, and it's like $7, but has like 4 comics in it. Basically, it has like a Conan book, and then 2 other books or stories that follow different characters, and then I think even a prose couple pages in the back. Like really cool stuff to see them playing around with. Uh, yeah, really into Conan lately, which is not something I was ever into when I was younger, but is actually pretty good comic wise.
Let's make that the homework for all of the Bomp listeners out there. Uh, go out there, buy that book, watch the Titan stock go up.
Yes, yes. I'm going to bet heavily on Titan futures based off this. So you better do it. You better buy it. Um,
Imagine if that were a thing. That would be insane.
that would be some wild insider trading. That would be,
Like
man.
not investing in companies, but like investing in particular books. Like someone being like, sell off all of my Spider-Man stock. I've got a hot tip that Paul is gonna die.
That would be great. Oh my goodness. Or like,
And then like Paul never leaves, and the guy is like, I'm ruined.
yeah, imagine if it was like fantasy football, but for like comic books. Like they're
Oh
citing
no.
points out for the week, and it's like, oh man, I just put Al Ewing on my lineup, and he took a dump. Oh man, that reminds me of there's a really funny American Dad episode where it's only part of the gag, but Roger is they think Roger's investing, Steve does, and he's like, but then it turns out because he keeps talking about how he's like investing in silver, but then it turns out he's on a website where you bet on the careers of actors. And he is some actor I can't remember the name of that he had bet on and lost all their money. It was great. Oh yeah, one thing I learned this week because I've been drawing lots of alien bits this week, and then it's because I've been really interested in just drawing them. When I'm not drawing comics, I'm drawing xenomorphs, for some reason. I drew one literally when we were having this conversation. But something
Oh,
I didn't
nice.
realize before, they have 6 fingers. Someone pointed this out to me in a server I was in. And I was really glad they did because I love learning these little intricacies. They have 6 fingers. 6 fingers. They have 2 thumbs.
Huh.
Yeah, I literally, and then they told me, I like went and I went and grabbed my figure, my like ones that are the most screen accurate, and
Yeah.
I was like, by God, you're right. How did I never notice this? Um, they have the same number of toes though. They have regular toes. Um, but yeah, when born from a human, 6 fingers. Go figure.
Hmm.
But yeah, that since they also change based off what host they come from, that's not hard. There are no hard and fast rules on what a xenomorph looks like. So you can
True.
really do whatever you'll want. Um, some of the figures are really fun. There's like a one that's like a rhinoceros variant. These like NECA figures. Uh, there's a lot of them that are like just marketed as, oh, it's xenomorph but kind of an animal, xenomorph but part cougar. That does not mean it's going to fuck you, but that would be a good xenomorph. I have seen sexy xenomorph drawings where they really give them thighs.
Oh yeah, no shortage of artwork like that. I almost feel bad for like thinking about doing my own version of it because there's so much, and so I just don't. Maybe I'll get over that eventually.
I once I figure out how to do it, I will make a sexy xenomorph. I'm still in my obsessing over their weird lanky bodies phase. Wow, I
Their
just saw that.
weird
Yeah.
shoulders with like the built-in padding.
Oh man, they do kind of have like little sand shoulders. I love that the pirate robots in Dragon Ball are just, they're like very heavily xenomorph xenomorph inspired.
Oh yeah.
Um Toriyama just loved putting stuff from movies and his stories, and I totally get it because he was probably watching Terminator and Aliens on repeat while he was drawing that manga. Um
Yeah, no
because you know,
streaming services back then. Whatever you had, that's what you had.
yeah, and he had money, so he had a VHS. You know it, or he
Yeah.
probably had a Betamax too,
He was
maybe even
probably a
Laserdisc.
Laserdisc guy.
Yeah.
Like he was making the most money.
And then Frieza third form feels like a xenomorph reference too, although it didn't do anything, so no one ever talks about it.
Yeah. Which
I
I like
think.
the addition of the horns. That like adds a lot to it where it doesn't really feel like it's taking all of its information inspiration from Alien. It
Mm-hmm.
could almost be like its own xenomorph design in that universe.
Oh yeah, totally. But I love how really digging. I love that shoulder pad stuff. I don't know why, but saying shoulder pads, so good, so good. I
Yeah.
always hated when or not. Well, yeah, I always was like not a fan of when they made them shoulderless. She's like, oh, it's better mobility, and I'm like, fool. Now if they give you now if they do like a judo chop on your shoulder, there's nothing to protect you.
True.
But yeah.
Speaking of Dragon Ball, Daimo is happening like around us as we speak. And
Oh my
that last
goodness.
episode was pretty okay.
I loved it. I was having such a good time. Um, I love this the combat that they were doing with little tiny Goku and his demons. Um, it was well choreographed. The pacing of it was fun. Uh, do you know what I really wanted from this, like in that aspect of it, is like creative fight, or not even creative, but just like well executed and choreographed fights that are fun, that you can tell what's going on, and then have the rest of it be just kind of a wacky adventure. kind of
Yeah.
like what those first 16 episodes of Dragon Ball GT wanted to be before they leaned into making it just like the fight show again.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping if the next 17 episodes are like more of this, I'm gonna be happy. But I was listening to a Myster Fusion video, who's they do this Dragon Ball dissection series on YouTube, or they completed it at this point, which is really good. Probably like the best digging into like the details of the Dragon Ball manga, like on YouTube. It's really good. They worked on it for years. But they have been talking about how like every time when Dragon Ball stuff happens, it always starts off good. I'm always excited. There's always these few little things, but then they don't follow up on it, and just by the end, it's disappointing. So they're tempering their expectations, and I don't blame them. And I kind of feel the same way. I'm like really excited right now, but I'm also cautious.
Yeah, I'm not like super disappointed. It at least like isn't doing that thing that's like big in shonen right now where everything is about auras. I guess to like save some animation money.
Yeah, it is funny how like shonens go through trends, like how like it's like exorcisms and stuff. Like that's kind of
Oh yeah, that's
really
kind of like
trendy.
fallen by the wayside and then like just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was interested to know that uh the original pitch for Shaman King was going to be a little different, but someone had made a manga too close to it. I think it was kind of more based around the character's girlfriend who was like a exorcist or something, but it's too similar. So he retooled it to be Shaman Fight, and that uh, is the story of how that happened, which is kind of funny.
I wonder what's going on with that guy. I remember he was like almost in a fugue state creatively, but apparently he's working again now.
Yeah, I think I know there's like another Shaman Fight manga that's like happening. That's like a sequel manga. I don't know if like or not Shaman Fight, Shaman King or whatever. Um, but I haven't looked into it at all. But I think he might even be working on that, which would be wild if true.
Yeah, I have to look into that.
But yeah, I read that like a year ago. I read that whole manga and I enjoyed it, but it did kind of drag for me towards the end, and there's a bit too much of like trying to explain how it made sense of the rules. Like they were really focused on, people have this much of their energy and if it goes out then they lose. But then it all turns into ways that work around that, and like that's fine, but just don't really care about the intricacies of your fight system like that. I kind of want it to be just more narratively interesting in the fight.
It's
And
kind of like how
sometimes
JoJo does it, where characters are operating on a limited amount of information, but that also limits the amount of information that like you as the reader are getting inundated with.
mhm. Yeah, their power, like JoJo powers, are like batshit insane, but like it works really well in the story, and
Yeah.
it's always exciting. And I never feel too bogged down with the details of it. Which is like, for example, I kind of fell off Jujutsu Kaisen at a point for similar reasons. The powers were like they got too esoteric and not fun to like read. Like when Jujutsu Kaisen gives you a whole page to explain a power, it is not fun.
Oh yeah, that's too much.
But when Hunter x Hunter gives me a whole page to explain something, it's great. So
It's
obviously
the
there's a way to do it, but
it's the
they aren't doing
flirting versus harassment dichotomy.
it.
Like
Yes.
when Hunter x Hunter rolls in, it's like, "Oh, you're sweet," but then Jujutsu Kaisen like stumbles in. It's like, "Hello, human resources."
Totally. Dude, I remember when they first they do like this big shakeup in Jujutsu Kaisen in the middle, and when it first started, I was like, wow, that was a bold thing to do, to really change a manga like that out of nowhere. But then as it kept going, I was like, was that bold or stupid? Because it's starting to feel stupid. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a hater. Some people, I had discussions in Discord, and some people like really defend it and really like it. So I mean, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's all I have for this week.
I do have one extra thing.
Ooh.
And it's just a result of me leaning more into experimenting with Blue Sky as a like service and how I would want to use it. Like recently, we were talking about how social media is like, because it's not something completely within our control. At least for me personally, I feel squeamish about like treating it like a diary. Like I love that when Japanese people do it. Like, you know, they wake up and they're like, here's what I ate today. But then I think about like me doing it and I just get deflated because I'm putting so much of myself into a service that I don't own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even with that in mind, I have been looking into the Blue Sky API, how a lot of different people are using it, how the website works algorithmically, because Blue Sky does have a functioning algorithm that takes what you do with it and will present you with stuff in your discovery feed uh, that should be tailored to things you want to see. And I've kind of been using it with that in mind of like curating a good discovery feed, which has mostly just led me to seeing other artists, which is all I've ever wanted from a social media feed. Um, but then more recently, there was a account that I had gotten a like from, and I clicked on the account, and this guy had like 3,000 followers. um, but then I checked it sometime later in the day, and he had 4,000 followers. And I thought that was weird. So I'm investigating the account, trying to figure out like how is this person getting like 1,000 follows in a day? And that led me to looking up the account's likes. Since Blue Sky's API does mean that likes are publicly viewable as long as like you are utilizing the necessary code in the API to make the likes viewable on your client. I took a look at his likes and I discovered that he was just liking pretty much every post that like seemed art adjacent. And I'm not sure if the intent was to just like curry engagement or if this person was doing what I was initially doing and trying to like create a art centric feed. But I think that's how they were growing some portion of their following account, just like liking other people's posts, and then people were deciding to follow them. Maybe that's just a guess, my little tinfoil hat guess.
Could
But
be.
that also led me to look more into the API stuff, like having the ability to, uh, I guess, go overboard and look at this guy's likes when you normally should not be able to. um, Led me to checking out different clients. On my phone, I'm currently using Gray Sky. It's pretty okay. It's got a very low footprint, functions almost exactly like how the website does, but it has a like almost persistent presence. So like when I exit the app, but it's still like in the background of my phone, I am able to like go back to the app, and then it puts me like right back where I left off, which is just important to me because for the longest time, Twitter couldn't even do that. If you went away from Twitter and then went back to Twitter, you're not going to be back where you left off. It's going to drop you in some like random place. And
Oh my
whatever you
god.
were looking at, hope you bookmarked it, hope you liked it because it's gone now.
Yep.
But other like clients of note, there's this one which maybe it's Japanese. It's got a very Japanese name, Toki Meki. Um, and it's one of those kinds of clients that's like purely a web app. And they like even say it's a progressive web app, which I've always loved the concept of like, oh, it's an app that you can run in a browser, but also literally any browser. And then if the browser like supports that whole thing of like putting websites on your device as an app, you could just like run infinite versions of this app on a device or just like have it exist on your device as a very low footprint client. I love that. We should be doing more of that. Um, that's kind of what Newgrounds has done. Like, there's no Newgrounds app. You do just go to the Newgrounds website and then install it on your phone as a quote unquote progressive web app. I just wish that they would redesign the website to accommodate that. It's
Hmm.
very tedious to use, which is already an annoyance because everything you post on Newgrounds, you have to like fill in a whole form for, which I guess is to combat spam. If it were very easy to post on Newgrounds, there would be way more spam than there is.
Yeah, I've never tried to post to Newgrounds. I used to go on it when I was younger. Honestly, it never even occurred to me as a place where you could post like art, like regular art. I always thought of it as being a place for games and animations.
Yeah. And it's probably because that's what people mostly share there. But I had always gone there for mostly the art because at the time when I was visiting, we still had like DSL. So good luck trying to load any animations. Um, Very embarrassingly, those zone animations, like the Teen Titans cartoons and stuff, I
Hmm.
would try to watch in public, unfortunately, at like the library. The last place you should ever try to watch zone porn. But that's how it was on this bitch of an earth. You know, no good internet at home. You're going to get your kicks at the library.
Yeah,
Um,
or the school library.
Other interesting apps, which I don't have access to because they are iOS only. It's very annoying that like the most interesting app development happening right now is all just iOS.
Is it really?
Well, like
Dang.
the search engine company that I'm currently subscribed to, Kagi, has their own browser, and every new update adds something cool and interesting. And it's like something that exists on Firefox, but it's ever so slightly better on Orion. Wow, I want to download Orion. Oh, it's only on like Macs. And it's like, well, I don't have a Mac. You know, please, Kagi, whatever you're doing, do it on Linux or Windows, the operating systems that I do use. Like, there's a Blue Sky client called Naughty, or maybe it's Newt because Toot, and it also has integration with Mastodon, which I'm also a big fan of. Love Mastodon.
Ooh.
I wish everyone was using Mastodon instead of Blue Sky, but this is the world we live in now. Um,
Ooh, that is cool. Wow. And this is
and
only
then
on iOS.
there's a Sky.app, which is also very interesting. I like the design of it. Exclusively macOS.
Ooh, I don't like it. Like that whole only on Mac OS thing. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Big fan of people creating web clients. There's also Deck Blue. I think we're all using Deck Blue at this point. You've ever like looked at TweetDeck and like got angry that Elon made TweetDeck paid service? Well, we have Deck Blue now, and it's everything TweetDeck was with potential to be better.
Yeah, I am a Deck Blue enjoyer. I'm still kind of figuring it out. Uh, Figuring out how to make the scheduled posting work, but I do like it.
One thing that I really appreciate about Deck Blue is that it also supports bookmarks because I've been liking a lot of stuff, but I may not necessarily want to go back through my likes. So anything that I would want to prioritize, I am readily able to bookmark when viewing it in Deck Blue as opposed to the vanilla website or even Gray Sky, which is kind of annoying. Like, would it really kill them to add a bookmark feature? But maybe it would. I don't know.
Yeah, the bookmark feature is nice.
Oh, also, content flagging. That frustrated the piss out of me. I hate being tut-tutted by moderators who like see a little bit of skin in a character illustration or something like that and are like, whoa, hey, you didn't put the appropriate content warnings on this. Not to worry, I've done it for you. But it turns out I'm the only one who sees that. Anyone looking at my feed does not know that an item has been content warned unless they have that content blocked in their settings, in which case they're never going to see it in the first place. I kind of like that. I was offended at first, but now that I know it doesn't really carry any sort of like negative implication in terms of like my presence on the website, like everyone that's opted in is opted in to like see my content, and no one who is opted in will never know that I'm there. I like that. That's fine. It's a far cry from Tumblr's tactic of kind of just like ruining your whole presence on Tumblr if your account ever like gets that sort of content warning. They also take away your ability to set an avatar. They give you a like a randomized mosaic, and it's kind of like branding your account almost when that happens. It's like, oh, this is one of the bad accounts. You see someone with one of these randomly generated mosaics, that's how you know they're a pervert. Steer clear. I always hated that. Love Tumblr. Hate that policy. I wish it would go away.
There's
So yeah.
another one I missed. I never got to enjoy Tumblr.
Oh, it was awesome when it was new. Um, I remember the guy that created it interviewed with Colbert, and that was like a big thing. It was that weird twee period of the internet where you could see a like tech guy interview on a political cable news show and it wouldn't be embarrassing. Like we all got excited, like, whoa, yeah, this means more Tumblr signups. And it was actually worth it at that time. Tumblr's growth was cool until the Yahoo acquisition. That's when things started to go bad. It was very much a and then the Fire Nation attacked moment for Tumblr.
Ooh,
And I think
sad.
Yahoo sold Tumblr to Verizon or something crazy like that. I
I
don't
know it's
remember.
been passed around a couple times.
Yeah. And now it lives with Automatic, and everyone is very scared because the Automatic guy is slightly unhinged. Not for no reason. He's just protecting his intellectual copyright, I guess, which, everyone does that. But wrong way to go about it. That's what attorneys are for, bro.
Yeah, I need to find out where I've been posting my comic stuff on Blue Sky on Twitter, but I think I need to get a personal website and also find one more spot to kind of collect my comics at. Because it feels like Twitter and Blue Sky are unwieldy ways to share them. Although I do think they're good for getting reach. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out this whole social media game.
I feel like having gotten more comfortable with some of the things that I initially disliked about Blue Sky, I might just post there more often. Because the potential for growth is there, but also um, there's more stuff there that I want to see. Like I always said, the moment people on Japanese Twitter leave, I'm going to go wherever they are. They're on Blue Sky now. So now I'm really able to enjoy myself.
Yeah, and the feeds are so much better too.
Yeah.
I've been kind of doing what you've been doing as far as being careful about what I like um to get the whole feed together, and it actually does feel like it helps. Whereas on Twitter it does not feel that way.
Yeah, and it will actually present information to you based on what you're posting. Like at first I was like, why are people posting lists of things they like? But I guess it works. I posted about my Vita and my GPD Win 4, and then Blue Sky was like, hey, check out who's posting about the Vita. No one's posting about GPD Win 4 though, which fair enough. It's a niche product.
uh yeah, I've been mildly considering throwing my comic up on Tapas just to have another place where it's there. But I was worried. I don't know what my concern with it was. I was either worried that it might be bad to put too much of it out there on a place like that for free, but I don't think
I
it
think
really
as long
matters.
as the platform holder doesn't make any claim to your work, it couldn't hurt. Um, Another way to approach it is to not rely on it entirely. Like that's the biggest thing when it comes to diversifying one's social media footprint. Um, Never give everything to any particular platform.
Hmm.
Always reserve something for yourself. Like you post a lot of stuff exclusively on your Patreon. And so people that do like what they get on the social media websites can go to your Patreon and then enjoy what's there, uh, supporting you
Yeah.
directly as opposed to supporting the platform holder while also kind of sort of maybe supporting you.
Hmm.
Because that's how it feels whenever something exclusively lives on those comic aggregators or exclusively lives on Twitter. It's like, well, that just helps um, Twitter. Maybe it helps SnakeJess draws, but only so much.
Hmm.
But if someone were to Patreon you at patreon.com/snakejustdraws, then that's supporting you directly. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like a half and half. I
I
would definitely recommend
definitely.
getting a personal website though. It's awesome. It's like
I
owning
Yeah.
land.
I really want to. I had started one like a year or two ago. I think I did it on Bluehost. I had some plugin that I had found for WordPress to make it somewhat streamlined for um doing a comic. I always just get stuck on in my head thinking, well, do I want to look for a solution that exists, or do I want to just build it myself? Because I know how to do that, but that's also my day job, and I could get stuck down a rabbit hole doing that. So I
Yeah.
like so yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how exactly I want to go about that. But I do think I am looking at, because it's really not that expensive to have a website. It's even to find a web host and get a domain name. It's really not that bad price wise.
Not like how it used to be. It used to be, expensive as shit. Like, um, I don't wanna think about what the, costs of, like, something like Penny Arcade used to be. I'm sure it's, like, way less now, but in the early 2000s, they were probably spending, like, upwards of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for half of the traffic they're getting now.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. Yeah, who knows? Maybe by the time we're recording the next podcast, I'll have like an in progress site going. You never know. I When I tend to jump on stuff, I tend to move pretty quick.
Hell yeah. I just noticed I have way too many, Blue Sky tabs open trying to find these clients, so now I have to close them all.
Oof.
Okay.
I'm SnakeJess Straws. You can find me at SnakeJess Straws on Patreon, Blue Sky, Twitter, and all of that jazz. I read my comic. It's on like page 30 something on Patreon. Um, like I think I dropped 2 pages on the Patreon the last week, but there's like 5 or 6 pages that are like slowly in progress, getting ready to drop as soon as I get through this final few steps. So yeah, it's a really good time to. But that is it for me.
And you've also been listening to Julian, my Julian, that's me. That's the name I use on most social media websites. However, I would prefer if you would visit me at vqcd.in. It's my website where all my cool stuff lives. Updates are anticipated to resume their weekly output. Hopefully, don't hold me to it. Just bookmark the website. Take a look.